All right. Hey, everybody, welcome. Are you guys excited? Hey, where's my word masterclass? Why is my slide misbehaving? There we go. Fantastic. Hey, guys, I hope you're having an awesome day. So here's the deal. I have so much to share with you. So if this is your first time on one of our masterclasses, then you might not know this. You need to go grab a pen and paper because you're going to need to take some serious notes. Jen and I have some amazing knowledge to share with you based on all the experience that we've had over the past 18 years. And we're not going to hold anything back. So get ready for an amazing time together. The way that this call is going to work today is we're going to spend the next however long it takes to go through what I have to teach you today. And then at the very end, for those of you who are participating live in the Zoom, I will bring everybody onto the screen like a big Zoom call like we would do in our mastermind, and we will just do open Q&A. And that Q&A can be on any topic related to real estate. It doesn't have to be solely about managing contractors or rehab. It can be on anything, because this is going to take place of our Ask Us Anything hour that we do at this day and time every Wednesday. All right, and if you are watching on the Facebook group right now, because we are streaming live, and you would like to participate live in the Zoom, then go to the events tab and click on the link to register, and it should let you in. You can't copy and paste the link. Apparently that doesn't work. Just click on the link and it will let you register, and then you can join us. All right, you guys ready to rock? Cool, me too. Let's do it. All right, so we are Jen and Stacy Conkey, and we are the founders of Warriors of Wealth. We are located in San Diego, California. We've been investing since 2003 in 14 different markets across the US. So we live in San Diego, but we don't invest in San Diego. Why? A number of reasons. One, we are cash flow investors. Not always. We sometimes do flips, just not recently, not in the last year. But what we have found is that operating in San Diego is very expensive and doesn't really produce anything in the form of cash flow, unless we're talking about negative cash flow, right? So we don't typically do business here, and even flipping here is very expensive because it requires so much capital. So we do all of our investing remotely, and we've done so pretty much since the beginning. So I'll tell you just a quick little bit about us so you know who it is that's teaching you, for those of you who don't yet already know us. But Jen was a leader in corporate America for 22 years. So she was doing investing as a side business just throughout her career, and she was able to retire and then focus solely on real estate. Stacy, who's me, I was a CFO in corporate America, and I left to invest in real estate. And I really have a passion for teaching and coaching, and just helping people get through a really difficult journey in a way that was easier than it was for Jen and I when we went through it. So, and I've been coaching investors for more than 10 years now. So Jen and I decided to put our skills together, as far as all of her knowledge on systems and leading, big teams, and all the amazing things she did in leadership in corporate America, combined it with my passion for teaching and coaching, and we created Warriors of Wealth Real Estate Investing Coaching and Mastermind. And we're really excited to be here with you. Everything that we teach you is just from our life, from our investing, from our experience. So nothing that we teach you is theory. It's a lot of the systems that we've created because of things that we did wrong when we were earlier in investing, and we had to figure out how to create systems to do things safer and with less risk and more efficiently, et cetera. So those are all the things that we're going to be teaching you today, so that you can just have an easier time in your own real estate journey. All right, so today we're going to be talking about managing your contractors and rehab, but we are specifically going to be focusing on rehabbing remotely. And the reason, and if you happen to invest where you live, that's no problem. Everything we teach you will still apply. Well, it should still apply if you're going to do things in a way that it's mitigating risk and it's safe. So really, regardless of where the property is, every system that we're about to teach you, you should be doing. One of the things that is so great about doing it remotely is because, sometimes when something is in your own backyard, you're under the impression that, oh, it's fine, I can check on it, or I can do this. And frankly, unless you're a licensed general contractor and you're a licensed home inspector or anything like that, I don't know what are you looking at? Through what lenses are you even seeing something? I could be rehabbing the house next door. I'm still not going to skip any of the steps that we're going to teach you today, because it basically brings in people with the highest level of expertise to put eyes on your project to make sure everything is being done correctly from the start. All right, so before we jump into that, we're going to be focusing today on where do you find general contractors, how do you vet general contractors, and how do you maintain control and mitigate risk throughout the entire rehab project. So, but before we even get to that point, a question that does sometimes come up is, when I'm getting going in my real estate journey and I'm, selecting my market and I'm selecting my realtors and I get deal flow coming in, right? Those are all the things that are happening before you go looking for contractors. Um, you know, we have everybody that's in our mastermind. What we tell them when they're getting started is pick a couple of markets and just start, reaching out, because you never know which market is going to click for you, right? There might be one market that just like it's crickets. You can't seem to get anyone to call you back to save your life. So you really don't want to spend a lot of time building an entire team out in a market where you don't even have deal flow coming in. And in the 5-day BRRRR challenge that we're doing next week, we're going to be covering that part, getting deal flow, on day 2. All right, so just understand that where we're starting today is really where you've already gotten to the point where you have leads coming in, and now you're like, okay, I got to start putting the GCPs together, because you're going to need general contractors on your team if you're going to be doing any kind of rehabbing, whether you're flipping or you're doing the BRRRR strategy or you're doing value add apartment complex that has renovation as a part of it. Okay, so in what part of the process does the GC research begin? It's once you start having deal flow come in, that's when you're going to start looking for general contractors, because what you need to do is you need to have them already identified and in place, a handful of them, so that when you get something under contract, you can immediately reach out to those general contractors and ask them to go out to the property and give you a bid. All right, so let's start off by talking about where are we going to find contractors. So it's funny, because when there's been a handful of times that here in San Diego, I've gone in and spoken at someone's mastermind or a real estate event, and the concept of doing things remotely is very compelling to people here because it's so expensive, but it's such a foreign concept that they're like, well, it's always they always ask about the contractors. I don't know why, but that's always the question. Well, but if you're going to do it somewhere else, like how on earth are you going to find contractors if you're not there? And so just being silly with them before I really explain what the way I'm going to explain it to you here is I say, well, I mean, if you think about it, what if you needed to get your roof replaced on the house that you live in San Diego? What are you going to do? You're going to walk out your front door and start walking up and down your sidewalk, yelling, hey, I need a contractor to fix my roof. I mean, no, of course you're not going to do that, right? What are you going to do? You're going to flip up your laptop or your computer or your phone these days, and you're going to start doing online research and looking for a contractor. So it's no different when you're dealing with a property that is located, or a market that's located in a totally different area. You're still using the same tool, your cell phone, your laptop. Those are the tools of the 2021 real estate investor, and even for the last several years. All right, but I wanted to give you some websites that you can go to, and the websites are all a little bit different the way that they're laid out. And I'm going to show you a visual example of one of them. Just know when you get to the point where you're starting to do this, you need to be patient with yourself, because every website has things in a different place. You have to be willing to click around and find where to go. But I will show you an example today. But Home Advisor, so these are all like homeadvisor.com, angieslist.com, house with a Z, with Z's.com, porch.com, thumbtack.com. And there's many other websites. These are just some of the ones that, that we thought of as we were putting this together for you. So you can go to any or all of these websites and start compiling your list of contractors. Now, sometimes the question comes up, well, what do I say? What do I say when I talk to them? Well, it really depends on the kind of project that you're doing. But when we are doing contractor outreach, the first thing I do from a system standpoint is I will sit down and create a list of 10, just 10 names and phone numbers, because the reality is there's going to be probably 8 or 9 on your list of 10 that are not going to be a good fit. And so as long as you know that going in, you won't get so hung up on, oh, I can't find contractors. Yes, you can. You just need to make a bigger list and be willing to make more phone calls. Don't expect it to come super easily, because it doesn't. Usually you got to be willing to, pick up the phone and make some calls. But anyway, so you start with a list of 10. And when you call, you're going to introduce yourself and say, I'm a real estate investor and I'm new in that market. This is a new market for me. And we're looking for a licensed and experienced general contractor who can handle our entire renovation projects from start to finish. And if you're flipping, which we don't really cover flipping a whole lot in our Facebook group or in our courses, because our focus from an educational standpoint is more about passive income. But I do know that several of you who focus on passive income also do flipping. So I do want to prepare you for what to say. When you're talking from a flipping standpoint, you would say, what we do is we buy distressed homes. We come in and do a complete renovation, top to bottom, with, and we do nice finishes. We're doing granite countertops, stainless steel appliances, new flooring throughout, new paint, interior and exterior. We do landscaping, so you're basically giving them an idea that you're going to come in and kind of do everything really nice. If you're doing a rental property, let's say you're doing the BRRRR strategy and you're focusing on 2 to 4 units, then you'd say the same thing in the beginning. Hi, my name is Stacy, and I'm reaching out. I'm an investor in the area, or this is a new market for me, and I'm looking at properties that are, between 2 and 4 units that are fixer-uppers that I can purchase and have someone come in and do a complete renovation on. So I'm looking for someone who is licensed and experienced in that type of work, who can do all of our renovation projects top to bottom. And the reason you're saying that is a couple reasons. One, I'm not looking for the kitchen remodeling company who's going to come in and go, okay, oh yeah, this is a great project. We could totally remodel your kitchen. That is not helpful. I am not looking to be the general contractor. Definitely not across the country, but not even at home. Like, I have so many other things to do. And frankly, me spending time being a general contractor takes away from our continuing to build our business, right? So you're basically saying you want someone who can handle the job top to bottom and beginning to end, so they know that you're looking for someone to do the whole project. The other part of it, and the reason I say that is because you want to give them the opportunity as early as possible to say, oh, well, we don't do complete rehabs. We just focus on roofs and exterior. Okay, great. So you don't need to have any further conversation or waste your time or theirs. The other thing about the conversation is, if you are just coming into the market and you're going to be doing multiple deals, like, don't be too over the top about that in the conversation, because then it just sounds like you're brag talking and people don't really believe it. But if you are more subtle in it, like, we're looking for someone that we can work with on our first project. We plan on doing, a handful of projects in the next year. That is more believable. And even if it's your intention to do a deal a month or 2 deals a month or whatever your plan is, it sounds over the top. So what's believable is, yeah, we plan on doing a few deals in this market this next year. We're looking for somebody that we can work with who can help us. All right. So that's kind of how that conversation goes. And you're just basically saying, is that something that you do? All right. And if it's no, cool, move on to the next one. If it's yes, then what I say is, okay, well, the way that we work is we're not ever going to ask you to go out and look at a property or give us a bid on anything that we don't have under contract. And if you've been to any of our trainings before, the way that we do our entire process is we get deal flow coming in. We calculate our offers based on estimates. We make our offers. Most offers are rejected. But if I had a contractor going out to every single property that I wanted to write an offer on, they would be so burned out, because most of your offers don't get accepted. So what I tell them is, look, I'm not going to waste your time. I will make my offer with an estimate of what the rehab is. If it gets accepted, that's the time where I'm going to call you to come out, because I don't want to waste your time. All right. And that really resonates a lot with contractors. So it's something you can put in your tool belt. All right. So what I want to do is, I just want to show you, I picked house.com. So I just want to give you kind of a visual for what it looks like when you go onto one of these websites and start working around. So this was a screenshot of house.com. So in this case, the first step is you would click on find professionals, but even in the beginning, I was like, okay, get ideas, find professionals, shop by department. Oh, find professionals. That makes the most sense. All right. So you click on that. So you click on that, this next screen comes up. And so they have, different categories. So they, under home designer and remodeling, they have architects and building designers, interior designers and decorators, general contractors. Oh, ding, ding, ding. General contractors is what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for a home builder, because I'm not building new, not looking for kitchen and bathroom design, not looking for kitchen and bathroom remodelers, right? General contractors. So I click on that. And then this is the next page that comes up. So I didn't filter house at all, but when I'm using this for our own business, I would go through and filter the location, the category, like the price you see towards the right of the red circle, it has, $1 sign to $4 signs, because I'm not looking for anything high end. So I'm probably going to be more in the $1 to $2 sign category. And the location, I want to really bring it in close to where the property is. All right, so we filter it out, and then you have a list of contractors that come up. So let me see, I think, yeah, there we go. So I clicked on one of them. Let me see if it was on that page. Oh no, it was. I must have been scrolling down when I came to this one. So I clicked on one of them, and then this is that contractor's page. So they're all different. Some of them are really professional. They clearly have someone on their team who updates the website, has really good pictures. They make sure all the reviews are there. In this case, it looks like they have some awards. And then over on the right side of the page, you're going to see a green button that says send message, or click to call, or their website. So you can, the way that I would do it is I go to their website, and on my spreadsheet, I'll put the name of the company, the website, and then I'll put their phone number, and I don't bother calling until I have a list of 10, and then I just make 10 phone calls in a row. I just find that it's more efficient than doing one thing like with 10 steps, and then you have to do the other thing 10 more steps again. Just collect all the information and make the phone calls. But in this case, that's where to get it. Every website's going to be a little bit different. So you just have to see what they have available. If they don't have a phone number available, then you might send a message. All right, so that is a visual example. All right, so let's start talking about what are some of the biggest mistakes that are made by investors when they are rehabbing properties. First and foremost, DIY, do it yourself. This, I mean, well, one, you obviously are not going to be able to invest remotely if you are trying to do it yourself. But even if you're, working locally, doing a rehab yourself is something that you would do, and I would call that more of a hobby. And I know it might be for your business, but if you are thinking like a CEO, like a CEO is not going and making a bunch of photocopies and filing a bunch of papers, right? They are the leader. They are leading their management team who leads their people to get something done. So when you're doing it yourself, it's like the equivalent of a CEO doing those exact things. Let me go, file some papers. Let me make photocopies, and you know what I mean? So you have to think differently. You have to think, if I stand back and I become a leader and I lead my team through this, how many deals can I do? As opposed to when you're doing it yourself, all you can do is the deal you're doing right now. So for those of you who have ever done it yourself, please don't take this as a rip on you, because first of all, that takes talent. It takes a lot of hard work, and I can appreciate that. But it is our goal to teach you guys how to build a business in real estate investing. And part of that is starting to make those transitions from doing it yourself to being the CEO and leading a team. All right. So I want you to take do it yourself out of the mix for right now. All right. Another big mistake that is made by investors is incomplete vetting. So what does that even mean? So vetting a contractor is, let's say you have a deal, you have a contractor who has bid the deal, or ideally you've had at least 3 contractors who bid the deal, and then you selected one that you feel is going to be the best fit. You don't just go and hire that contractor. There are a number of things that you want to do to make sure that you can mitigate risk as much as possible with that contractor. So I'm going to go through those things with you in just a minute on the next couple of slides to show you what you need to be looking at. It's one of the biggest mistakes because oftentimes the introduction to a contractor might come as a referral. It might be another investor, it might be a realtor, it could be a property manager, could be someone else. And because of that, there's this sense of, oh, okay, well, because they're a referral, everything is okay. Or, oh, I mean, they sound really great on the phone, so I think that's fine. It's not fine. And you have to do complete vetting. And any time in the past where we've not done it this way, we get burned like literally every single time. So that's part of why our system is what it is now. And when we get to that point, I want you to take very detailed notes, because you're going to create your own checklist of the things that you need to do when you're getting ready to hire a contractor to make sure that they are going to be your best fit. All right. And then the third biggest mistake made by investors is paying ahead. So what does that even mean, paying ahead? So it's pretty common. Let's say you're going to have someone come in and do a kitchen remodel in your own home. It's not uncommon at all for the contractor to say, okay, well, it's 50% due up front, 50% at the end. All right, very, very common, very normal. However, when it comes to doing a real estate investment, we are not paying ahead. And let me explain why. And I will explain in detail when we get to that point about how we actually do that. It's something we call doing it on a draw schedule. But if I'm going to do a rehab project, first of all, the contractor should have credit lines available. They should be able to proceed without having a bunch of money handed to them up front. And if not, that's a little concerning. But at the maximum, if they really need funds to get started, then I'm paying them a very small down payment in order to get dumpsters and maybe start permits. But other than that, what is there in the very beginning of a rehab project? It's demo. There's no materials, there's no cost to it. It's just labor. And unless you're paying your workers in advance, which of course you're not, you really don't need a lot of capital up front. But most general contractors, it's just normal for them to say, oh, I want 30% up front. I want 50% up front. All right, so I'm going to teach you how to have the conversation with them that allows you to basically lay down like, look, I will pay you regularly and very timely, but what I will not do is I will not pay you in advance for work that is not complete. All right. So, and it's not the easiest conversation to have if you're talking to someone who's never done it that way before, but it's just something you have to get used to doing. Because here's the deal. How is a contractor motivated? They're motivated by the money that they're going to receive once they finish, a part of the project, or at the end, all of the project. So if you're paying funds in advance, what motivation do they have to stay and finish the job and not go take another deposit in another job and basically spread themselves too thin? We have done it in the past, we've done it enough times that we're like, okay, we don't want to do that. The contractor loses the motivation to complete the job. So you're going to be paying on a draw schedule. All right. So we'll get to that in kind of this next section. All right. So let's talk about vetting contractors. So we want contractors that are 1, licensed, 2, insured, and 3, experienced. Okay, and I'll talk about each of these in a little bit more depth. With the experience part of it, what you're looking for is someone who is experienced in the type of project you're going to do. So for example, if I'm going to be doing a fixer-upper duplex that I'm going to renovate, I'm going to rent out, I'm going to refinance, and I'm going to hold it as a rental. Right? And I'm calling around talking to contractors, and I'm talking to one contractor, and all of their experience is on high-end custom homes. That is not going to be the contractor that's going to make sense for this project. You need someone that has worked on rental rehabs before, because there is a distinct difference between doing a rehab for a fix and flip or like a new build or custom anything and doing a rental rehab. And we have a whole masterclass on that called, I think it's rental rehabbing. I think that's what it's called. Anyway, where we talk about like what the difference is. When we do rentals, we still want to do it nice. Like we want the project to look nice, but I'm not looking to put in high-end anything when I know that over the course of time, it's just going to be damaged or destroyed, right? So there is a difference, and you want someone who can be smart about the types of materials and the way the project's going to try to minimize costs so that you can kind of get your best bang for the buck, so that you can put a clean, safe, functional, but nice property on the market for rent. All right, so let's talk a little bit about licensed. Now, when I say licensed, what I'm really referring to is they need to have a general contractor license. Okay, but you also need to get their driver's license. And here's a couple of things I want you to pay attention to. And I'm just going to show you an example of one of our contractor's licenses that I pulled out of our file from a couple years ago. The general contractor license, you want to make sure that it's actually them that's licensed. And one of the things that happens sometimes is you might be talking to a contractor and you ask the question, are you licensed? Are you insured? And they give you the yes, 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 all the yes answers. And then the time comes that you're asking them for documentation of it. And you'll typically see them hem and haw a little bit if they don't actually have the license. And then if they do send you a license and you see, wait, who is Fred Wilson? Like, who's Fred Wilson? I'm talking to Bob Jones. Like, who's Fred Wilson? And they say, oh, well, we work under Fred's license. I will tell you, as tempting as that might be, especially if their price looks good and everything else, you're making a mistake if you go down that route, because the whole purpose of you requiring that the contractor have a general contractor license isn't to make sure, oh, they know how to do the work. The experience leads you to know that they know how to do the work. The license is so that you have some kind of leverage should you need to use that leverage because the general contractor is not performing the way that they need to, or if they've ripped you off somehow or done some subpar work and will not fix it. If you don't have any board of contractors to go to be, I don't want to say to make that threat, but to say, look, you have to do right by this. You are a licensed contractor in the state of whatever, and I'm going to go to the board of contractors if you don't make this right. When you don't have that leverage, you're kind of stuck like Chuck. All right, so you want the actual contractor that you're hiring to be the one whose name or their business name is what's on the license. And then you want a driver's license with their photo, that with their name, that you're matching up to license and just making sure. And I know if you've never done a rehab before, this probably seems overkill, and I get it. But when you've been doing real estate as long as we have, you will see all sorts of craziness. And that's what we've come to basically requires. You have to have a license, and I have to see your driver's license. I want a copy of it, and I'm matching everything up. You kind of have to be like an auditor. You're looking for something that doesn't look right because they sound good on the phone, their numbers are good. Okay, so hopefully everything lines up. But I would much rather find out before I hire them that something doesn't line up than after, because then you're kind of in a difficult position. All right, so on this next slide, I'm just going to show you an example of a license. Now, this is our contractor, Paul, and this is when we did a deal in Kansas. Now, this is a couple of years ago, and at the time, oh, I remember this one. At the time, he had sent me his license, and I was like, wait, this one's expired. So I was already like, oh, hold on a second. He sent me an expired license. He's not licensed. Well, I didn't assume that. I just said, hey, this license, this isn't going to work because, it's got to be current. And he's just like, oh, okay, hold on a second. My bad. I didn't realize I sent you an old one. And then very shortly thereafter, sent me the new one. So I want you to look at the very bottom of the screen. Do you see where it says license expires December 31st, 2018? Well, it was 2019. And I was like, hold on a second. So I'm looking at a few different things. And the actual license looks different from place to place. Like they all look totally different. So what I looked at here is it was auto remodeling. Okay, well, it doesn't say Paul Auto, but it's auto remodeling. And obviously Paul Auto is the owner of auto remodeling. So everything was checking out there except the expiration date. And then when I told him, he sent me the updated one, which looked identical, except it had 2019 as the expiration date. All right, but that's just an example of what you're looking at and how you're just kind of looking through everything to make sure it makes sense. If you're a skeptical type of person, that will really serve you in this business. It'll drive your team members crazy, but it will be good for you. Trust me. All right. So we talked about being licensed. The next is insured. So we want to make sure that our contractors have liability insurance because they're going to have their guys on our property. So we want to make sure that they have liability insurance so that if something happens on the job to one of their guys, they're not coming after our insurance. Okay, so you want to make sure that they have a minimum of $1 million policy. And of course, if you're doing a much larger project, then that might need to be adjusted. Okay, so that's something you would want to talk to maybe your insurance agent about. Like, hey, do we need to request that they have a higher liability amount? But $1 million as a minimum, and it's also super common. So it's not like you're going to have to convince them to go get $1 million policy. It's just kind of the standard amount. All right. So the other thing about them being insured is your company or you as a person, whoever's doing the deal, which we always recommend it be an entity and not a person for asset protection reasons. But regardless, whoever it is that is on title, whoever it is that owns the property, the LLC, the person, whoever, you want to have that entity or person be added as additional insured on the liability policy. Okay, and if you haven't heard that before, it doesn't flow. The words of it don't flow, and it kind of is like, wait, what are you saying? So it almost be better if I put quote. So quote, additional insured, end quote. All right, so in your notes, must be added as quote, additional insured, end quote. Okay, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. All right, so this is a standard certificate of liability insurance. They all look like this, right? So this is basically what it's going to look like. And it has who at the very top, it shows who's the producer, which is basically who's the agent. Below that, who's the insured. So in this case, I use auto remodeling. Again, the contractor. So if you look over to the right, then you see the liability coverage there. Now, when I talk about additional insured, I want you to look down towards the bottom on that big red circle and see where it says description of operations, locations, vehicles, and it says additional insured 630 Endeavors, and then certificate holder 630 Endeavors, and then the address. All right, so for this particular deal, that was the owner of that particular property. So what it means to be additional insured is that our company, because if someone sues the homeowner is the company, is the LLC. It means that our LLC is covered by the liability policy. If someone comes on the property, one of their employees comes and does like a slip and fall or something like that. Okay, so certificate holder will be your company name. It's not an unusual request at all. What we find is that a lot of our newer investors that come into our program are like, oh man, I feel a little bit nervous asking for this. And here's the deal. There's no contractor that's ever been in business for any amount of time that would even blink an eye at this request because it's so common. So don't worry about it. You just say, hey, I need to, this is before you give them a deposit, before you're signing a contract, anything like that. You need to receive this showing that your company is an additional insured on the policy. The other thing that happens with that liability policy is being additional insured is anytime there's any kind of policy change, or if they are not current on their premium or anything like that, whoever the additional insured is will receive a notification that the policy has changed or that a payment hasn't been made, so that you can be aware and address it. I can't think of a single time in 18 years where I ever received that notification, because nobody's insurance ever like canceled or anything. But I know by me being on there, if it does, I'll get a notification. All right, and then the third is experience. So I talked about experience being related to making sure that they've done similar type of projects before. What you're looking for as far as experience and under the umbrella of vetting them is really three things. One is a background check. All right, and there's tons of companies that are on the internet that will do a background check for you. So you're going to run a background check. You're going to ask them for references, and ideally, you're going to ask them for references of projects that are similar in scope and similar in size to the one that you're doing. All right. And then don't just ask for the references, then follow up and actually call those references. And you can just say, hey, I'm looking to hire blah, 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 contractor. He had listed you as, somebody he done a previous project for. And I wondered if you could tell me a little bit about what the project was. And that way you can kind of back up. If he said, oh, these three projects are very similar to yours, and then you just leave the open-ended question to whoever they did the work with, like, hey, what kind of work did they do for you? It gives you an opportunity to match up and make sure that everything looks consistent. And if it isn't, then that's a red flag. You need to start paying closer attention to everything. So anyway, getting the references and then calling them, and then just doing research. And it's hard for me to tell you specifically what to do, because every time I go to hire a contractor, I used to be an auditor. I was an auditor for Arthur Andersen like a million years ago. And so it's my natural nature to go like research stuff anyway. Like I'm looking for something to be wrong. And ideally I find nothing came up. That's great, but it's not going to stop me from looking. So I'll try to give you an idea of like some of the stuff I've done. Well, these days Facebook makes it really nice. So I'm always looking them up on Facebook. I will Google them. I'll look them up on LinkedIn. And then even within Google, it depends on what comes up. I will always just follow the rabbit trail. And I'm just looking for anything that would be a red flag for me to go, okay, hold on, let me look further into this. Ideally nothing comes up, but if something does come up, then you need to address it with the contractor. But if something comes up and you're realizing, wow, this person's going to end up hurting me, then you need to, cut it off with that person before you even start, and hire someone else. All right, so that's vetting contractors, and you really want to make sure that you're thorough and complete in doing it, and that you have everything documented. Now, the way that when we started in 2003, everything was different, right? Everything was paper back then. So I'd have physical hanging files with folders in them and things like that. And so I would have a folder for each contractor that I was talking to with their bid in it, for the one that I was looking to hire, I would collect their license and their driver's license and their insurance and their references and pictures of property, their former projects. I would collect all of that. Well, we don't really do anything with paper anymore. Right? Everything's electronic these days, but you can still take that same model and do it like on your computer. So I'll have a folder for the property, and then I have multiple folders within it. You know, there's like closing, funding, my due diligence, my contractors. So I have all these different folders. Within contractors, I'll have 3 subfolders, and each one for each contractor. And then within the contractor that I'm doing all this vetting on, I'll save the general contractor license, the driver's license, the insurance, the references, all of that stuff. So it's all in one place. So that's how we keep it all organized. All right, so now, how do you actually maintain control and mitigate risk? So where we are in the process, if you think about like an entire deal start to finish, it is you're getting lead generation, right? You're getting properties coming in with comps, you're making your offers. At some point you get an offer accepted, you do your due diligence. Your due diligence includes getting rehab bids, checking your ARV, checking on property management in the area, verifying rents. I mean, if you're doing rental property, getting a home inspection, like you're really checking everything out, making sure the deal is good. So let's say everything checks out, you get your funding lined up, and then, you know, a few weeks later, you're closing. And now the rehab is going to begin. Well, in that last week or so before you close is when you're going to start getting the paperwork and documentation done, in place and signed, so that ideally the day after you close, you can immediately get into action and get your project going. All right. So that's kind of where this whole thing falls. So there's kind of 3 main areas that I'm going to walk through when it comes to actually doing the rehab, and doing a rehab where you're maintaining control and mitigating risk. All right. And the first is the contract. And when I say contract, that includes several different things, and I'm going to go through those. The draw process, which is work gets done and then gets paid for. Work gets done and gets paid for. Like, what do you do during that whole process? What's the different paperwork or the documents that you need? And then the third is the project oversight. Like, how do you actually make sure that everything is being done correctly? Okay, so we're going to talk through that. But sometimes people ask, well, I mean, I don't understand. If I'm not there, how am I going to communicate with them? Like, how do I know what's going on? Okay, so let's talk a little bit about logistics and some of the modern technology that is just an everyday part of our business at this point. I'd say if you're doing real estate investing now in this age, like this is like it has never been easier. Actually, let me refrain from saying easy. It's simpler, right? We have so many tools at our disposal. So I'm sure you guys already know about some of these, but I'm going to introduce you to the way that Jen and I do it, just so you can start getting an idea of how it is in the real world and how it actually ends up playing out. All right. So on the logistics side, we're using, well, our cell phone, obviously, for making phone calls, texting, sending messenger information. Just depends on how you're communicating with them. We'll use our computer, sometimes. And then there's all sorts of apps out there that allow you to communicate with someone on the other end, both visually or just through voice text. So it kind of depends on what your preference is, but there are so many different options. So let me just show you some of them. All right, so these are just the little icons, but you have Messenger. It's like it's almost like FaceTime, but basically it's like video through Messenger. Duo is an app that allows, you know how iPhones have FaceTime, and as long as 2 people have iPhones, they can do a video call. Well, Duo is a program that basically allows an Android phone and an iPhone to communicate that same way. There's Zoom, which can be done on the computer or can be done on a phone. And it could be that the contractor's there on Zoom on the phone and you're sitting at your laptop. Like, you have so much flexibility. There's Skype, which I don't know if anybody uses Skype anymore, but it does exist. The Blue Box, I can't remember what on earth the Blue Box is, but it's some other program. Maybe that's FaceTime. And then the big beach ball, that's our favorite. That is Marco Polo. And I'm actually going to show you a little bit more about Marco Polo. But basically, Marco Polo is an app that allows you to, it's really weird. It's like they call it a video walkie-talkie. So if you have a Messenger or iPhone, anywhere where you can be on the app and leave like a voice text. You can talk it and then it shows up on there. They play it and they listen to it and then they can voice text you back. Well, Marco Polo is that same thing except video. So you can literally hold the phone up to your face and you're talking into your phone and you're communicating whatever you need to communicate to your team member. And then when you're done, they get a notification. They watch it, they listen, and then they can respond same way visually. And the reason that's really helpful is when you're doing a rehab project, sometimes you need a visual. Like if the contractor's saying, you know what, we're having this issue, but I need to show it to you. Cool. Then we get on Marco Polo, or they can get on Marco Polo. You don't have to be there at the same time because it will sit there as a notification until you see it. But they can basically flip their phone around and they can show you whatever it is that they're asking about, whether they're showing just, hey, here's the progress, or hey, we ran into this. Do you want to do brushed nickel or copper? Copper, I don't know who does copper, but anyway, you have all these different options and sometimes you need a visual answer. So Marco Polo is great for that. Some of the voice apps, one, obviously regular phone and voicemail. You have your little microphone that you can use on your phone to leave a message. You can do Facebook Messenger, allows you on your phone to leave up to 60 seconds of voice text. And then you have to do another one and another one. So that one keeps it to a minute. And then Voxer is an app that I'm starting to see more and more where you can leave much longer. It's like voicemail, except you don't have to do it. It's like a walkie-talkie. All right. So anyway, those are some of the voice apps. So I wanted to show you real quick Marco Polo. So Marco Polo, as you see here, it has, it's on the Apple App Store and also on Google Play. So you can use it on Android or on iPhone. So it's available on both. So this is just a screenshot of my cell phone. So I have different folders because Jennifer made me create folders. My phone had like 5,000 apps. It's complete chaos. Sometimes my mind works like that. So anyway, she made me create folders. So I had a real estate folder. So any app that I use that's related to real estate is in there. And then if I swipe to the left, there's more apps, and they're all related to real estate. Well, anyway, this is the portion of the screen that shows Marco Polo. So you can see at the bottom right, Marco Polo, little ball, and 8, and that just basically shows you that there's notification in there. Okay, now this is kind of embarrassing, so don't pay too close attention, but this is basically when you're holding, I want you to envision that you're holding the phone up to your face, and let's say you happen to have my same face. So you're looking back at yourself on the phone and you're pushing that little blue button that records, and then you talk to whatever. So if you look down at the bottom, that was me leaving a message for Paul, our contractor. And then the one just to the right of it, you could see he's walking, he's holding the phone and he's looking straight ahead and he's walking and he's talking. So when I got that notification, I listened to what he said and then he left another one. And then it allows us to go back and forth, or allows him to just communicate to me, hey, here's what's going on. Here's where we're at the project. And sometimes that's all it is. It's just a one-way thing. And I might just hop on and say, cool, that's awesome. Thank you. Okay. So it's super convenient. At this point, Jen and I have every one of our team members in every market that we operate in on Marco Polo, and it's actually a requirement to work with us, which it's funny because almost everybody we work with hasn't worked with it before. So we have to like teach them to do it, which is always very entertaining because they'll be recording and they don't even know. But anyway, so you have to be willing to train your team members on that. But man, I'll tell you what, once they do, they are hooked for life and they try to get all of their other clients to do it as well because it's just so easy for everyone. All right. So I don't know if this is going to come through for you guys, but I took one of the updates that Paul had sent and I downloaded it, and I'm going to try to play it and hopefully you guys can hear. If not, you'll see at least a visual, but just know that there's audio that goes along with it.
Here we go. Taking out joists, putting up temporary walls, listening to a little Tom Petty, making stuff happen. This beam is going to go up here today. Here's the 3 beams. They're about 250 pounds a piece. So, bound to be a good time. Hope you're having a great day.
All right, so that's what it looks like. So the same thing, I'm just looking at my phone and it's that video with, the little buttons below, and then I can reply back. So it just allows your contractor to be in contact with you. But like we have our realtors, our property managers, and our contractors in every market all on this because it's easy. And one of the things that is a challenge for us, just like it is for many of you, is if you are investing remotely, sometimes you have a time difference. So, we might have a team member that's in, on East Coast time, and they're on the job at 7:30 in the morning, and they need to communicate something to us. And so they might, if they're going to try to pick up the phone and call, good luck. My phone is on do not disturb because my sleep is it's precious, especially with 4 kids. Sleep cannot be disturbed. But anyway, but they can send a Marco Polo. That way they can get out whatever they needed to get out and be like, hey, get back to me, when you have a chance. And then when I'm up and operating about, I can do the same thing. And the thing that's nice is it might be 8 or 9 o'clock at night for me on the West Coast, and I need to ask them a question or say something to them. I don't want to be texting or calling. It's too late. I'm trying to be respectful of their time, but I can send a Marco Polo. And then that way, whenever they are back into business, which, they might be late. Actually, the reality is almost every realtor and contractor I've ever worked with is a super late stayer upper. I know that's probably not a word, but they all stay up late. But still, I want to respect it because if they do put boundaries around their work-life balance, I want to honor that. So sending a Marco Polo allows me to feel like I'm not bugging them. And whenever they are choosing to do business, if it's after hours, then that's their option. And they can communicate back either the next day or that night or whenever it's convenient for them. All right. So I hope that's helpful. I just wanted to give you guys a visual because I know that, in the past when I've done teaching, I might be, talking on stage to a big group of investors and I'm doing my best to describe it, but they're like, oh, okay, that sounds great. But you don't really know what we're talking about. So I was excited that I was able to give you that visual. And Jen gave me a thumbs up that you guys could hear it. So that's good news. All right. Okay. So now let's get into some of the nitty gritty here. So you can never do a rehab project without having a contract. I mean, you can, but you can't. You shouldn't. All right, because the whole point of the contract is to stipulate, first of all, who are the parties? What is the agreed upon work? What is the agreed upon price? What happens if they don't finish the work on time? Who's responsible for what, right? You have a document that really outlines roles and responsibilities of everybody and what is being agreed to. So you have to have that contract that has everything that you could think of in it, and then both people need to sign it. Then you have an executed contract, right? Just like in real estate, when you're making your offers, you submitting an offer doesn't mean you have an accepted offer, right? You have to submit the offer, you signed it. The seller also has to sign it. Now you have an executed contract. Okay, same thing goes in with the GC. So you have to have an executed contract. Part of your contract is going to be a scope of work and ideally a draw schedule. So a scope of work and draw schedule can be on the same form, but sometimes they are and sometimes they're not. So I'm going to try to show you a couple of different examples just so you can see what's out there. There's no one defined way it needs to be. Here's what I'll tell you. A scope of work is simply a list of all of the work that's going to be done and for what price. Now, when it comes to a scope of work, the way that you should do it, best practices would be every line item on that scope of work. And the more detailed you can be, the less stressed you will be in life as an investor. Because rehabbing is not for the faint of heart. It is probably the most challenging, you want to pull your hair out part of our business. But gosh darn it, you can make so much more money if you're willing to do it. So we suffer through it because frankly, it's how we build our wealth, by doing that. But anyway, the scope of work is the detailed list, and you want to have the dollar amount associated with every single line item. So how much for demo, how much for this, how much for that, instead of having here's a list of all the 33 things that we're going to do on the project. And at the end of it, it's $50,000. No, you need to have a list of every single thing and what is the dollar amount associated with it. Because what happens if you're doing the work and the contractor says, okay, this, and this is done. Okay, well, how much do I send them? Because we didn't define what the value of each of those things was. Okay, that is why you want to have a scope of work with the dollar amount for each item. Okay, and like I said, I'm going to show this to you in a second. A draw schedule is something that ideally you have that incorporated in the contract, but at a minimum, the scope of work must be incorporated into the contract. Okay, draw schedule, it's ideal if it is. So a draw schedule is basically, let's say you talk to the contractor and you guys have agreed that we're going to do this project over 4 draws. Okay, so what does that mean? That means what I'll do is I'll give the scope of work back to the contractor, and I are both working on creating the scope of work that we both agree on. Then I will hand it to the contractor and say, okay, how many draws are we going to do on this? So let's say we agree on 4. Then I'll say, okay, I want you to take the scope of work, and I want you to break out which things on the scope of work are going to go into which draw. Week 1, 2, 3, or not week. Draw 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so that's the contractor's job to go ahead and do that, and then I will review it, make sure it makes sense, and then we operate accordingly. So the draw schedule just keeps, and I'll tell you, I've never had a single project that follows the draw schedule exactly. It's like 2 things on draw 1 didn't end up getting done until draw 3 because some materials couldn't come in on time, and something that was for draw 4 ended up getting done in draw number 1 because they ended up with some extra labor available to do it. So you have to be flexible to some degree, but without any draw schedule, you really don't have a firm grip on, well, what exactly is going to get done and when. All right, so that's the point of having that. So I want to go through and just show you visually what some of these documents look like. Okay, so this is a draw schedule. Now this is a draw schedule that I had actually created for the hard money lender with draws 1, 2, 3, and 4. So they weren't completed yet. But before we got to even this point, the contractor and I, he'd given me a draw schedule that had, these are the things that will be done in draw 1, draw 2, draw 3, draw 4 that we agreed to. And that was basically how I planned the project. Okay, but this is example of something that could be both a scope of work and a draw schedule. The scope of work is basically everything on the left, the description of work. All right, now you can, I'd say ideally, you'll break this out even further, and I'll leave that to your discretion. But like, for example, under interior, number 8, where it says replace tub, shower head, toilet, and vanity, ideally you'll have that as 4 separate lines. Replace tub, and then next line, replace shower head. Next line, replace toilet. Next line, replace vanity. Because what if they do the vanity in a tub, but they haven't done the shower head and the toilet yet, and they're asking for a draw? Well, then how do you know how much of the 3,500 to do? Okay, so that's why I say it's ideal. The more detailed you can break it out, the easier it's going to be for you to manage the job. All right, but anyway, that's what a draw schedule looks like. It's just that usually draws 1, 2, 3, and 4 are actually completed as far as the draw schedule goes. All right, so now let's talk about the draw process. So what happens is your contractor is going to do a certain amount of work, right? And then they're going to say, okay, I want to be paid now, right? So you might be doing the project with a hard money lender. And if you're using a hard money lender, there's going to be a couple extra steps because your hard money lender is going to also want to verify that the work has been done. But even if you're doing this without a hard money lender, meaning you got a loan for the property, maybe a conventional loan, because maybe it wasn't a huge fixer, so you could get a loan from a conventional bank. Any kind of like big rehab, you will not be able to get conventional funding for it because they don't lend on those, right? But a hard money lenders do. But let's say that it was not that much of a fixer, or you did it with cash, so you don't have a hard money lender that is, looking at the work. You are still asking for all of the same things. You have to protect basically your investment. All right, so when the work is done and ready to go, or they're ready for a draw, one thing that we need an invoice. So I need an invoice that has, here's the items that are done and here's what we're requesting to be paid. So one is an invoice from the company. This actually, I just wanted to show you, this is an example of a change order. So anytime you're doing a real estate project, it's, unfortunately for all of us, it's not uncommon for stuff to come up when you're in the middle of the rehab. You should always try to budget in some fudge factor, like a contingency, ideally like 10% of the project cost, for whatever random thing's going to come up that you don't know yet until you get into it. So in this case, we had, this was a property, it was a historic property that was a duplex, and we took this historic duplex and we did a complete renovation top to bottom on it and turned it into a massive single family home. So anyway, and it's funny because we were just talking to our mastermind students about that yesterday, comparing like the value of a duplex to a single family home. And in some areas, the home is going to be worth significantly more. Like in this case, it was worth $275,000 as a duplex, and it was worth $500,000 as a single family home. We chose to go that route, and we ended up doing a fix and flip. But in a case like that, we ended up having a new water line that we needed to get, but we didn't catch that during the due diligence process. It didn't come out during the inspection, so we had a change order. And in order for the contractor to get paid, they can't just say, oh yeah, this came up, we have to get paid. They have to get approval from you. So they have to submit the change order, you have to approve it, and then you can add it to your project. All right, another thing that they need to give you is a lien release. So what is a lien release? A lien release is a document that is signed by the contractor saying, we've been paid for this work. And what's the purpose of doing that? So every time you make a draw payment, you need to get a lien release signed, because what that lien release is effectively saying is, we have been paid for this work. Because if you ever get into a dispute with a contractor and the contractor is like absolutely adamant that they've been wronged, they've done work that you did not pay for, that you had agreed to, they can file a lien. It's called a mechanic's lien. On the property. They can put it in public records, which means when you go to sell the house or even refinance the house or the property, it's going to come up and you're going to have to either pay them or somehow settle it in order for them to get, or for the title to be cleared so that you can sell or refinance the property. So you have to get a lien release every single time you make a payment, so that if that ever came up, you could basically go to the county and go, look, we don't owe anything. Here's a lien release at every single, step along the way. All right, so that's just a visual example. There's tons of different lien releases out there. This is just one that we had used on a project. All right, and then this is a draw request. So in this particular case, this was a draw request form from the hard money lender. So the hard money lender in this case, they already had their own form, the way they wanted it done, the way that they did it, which is difficult sometimes because you're trying to figure out like where to put stuff, and all of it is a lot. It's grouped a lot more than the way you would group it. You would actually break a lot of these things out into a lot more detail. And so your scope of work would be a lot more, your scope of work would be a lot more detailed. But on the side where it says scope of work, it's because it's the lender's form. So in this particular one, you see in the column, it says total budget. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4 columns. So total budget. So this is the total dollar amount that was allocated to these different divisions from the hard money lender. And the next one over, it was basically previous or prior draws that were approved, and it shows the amounts in there. So these are the amounts that we had already drawn out and paid the contractor. Now what we're filling out here, the actual draw request, it says draw 5. So this is, I think we had 6 draws on this project. So draw 5 had finished carpentry. We had asked for 4,000 of the 4,750. Interior paint, we asked for the whole thing. Flooring, we asked for about half. So, or actually, I guess it was the second half, the rest of it that was there. So we basically are asking for what work has actually been done. So what happens then is your GC requests requests the draw. They said, okay, the work is done. I'm done with phase 1. All right. Now they have to send you the draw request. So in this case, it was an Excel document that the hard money lender sent me, and I sent it to the contractor and said, here, you tell me what is actually done that you're ready to be paid for. I need you to fill this out. I need an invoice that matches this exactly, because I do not want to go back and forth with the hard money lender about things not matching. And I need the lien release. All right. And I need photos. Actually, let me show you all those in just a second. But this document in Excel, I put back to the contractor and say, you fill it out first, and then I'll take it and I'll basically review it to make sure everything looks consistent. So the draw request is something you need. You need the invoice. You need the lien release, and then progress pictures. Okay, so let me ask you something. So if I got all these documents, do you think I'm good to go? Can I go ahead and release the money? No. And this is where investors get hung up all the time. Because I will tell you something, we have had some really interesting contractors in our career. And I'll tell you what I'm about to show you as far as what the rest of our system is. We had a contractor who basically said, okay, the HVAC is done, and sent pictures. And as far as I could see, HVAC was done. I could see all the equipment. I could see the actual, like the condenser for the AC, the furnace, all of the ductwork. I couldn't remember what it's called. All the ductwork that was going through the house. I'm like, okay, cool. It looks like it's done. However, that's not the last part of our system, and that contractor didn't realize that. So that was the last time we worked with him. But let me tell you what we do and how we caught that, how we always catch when someone is trying to pull one over on us. All right, so before you release funds to the GC. See, like our contractor, they do not want to mess with Jen. She's scary. But anyway, so you as the investor, you're going to call, well, you're going to get your scope of work. And it's like, okay, so these are the 5 things that need to be reviewed. And you're going to call your home inspector and say, hey, so we're ready for another draw inspection. So what you do at every step along the way, every time you're going to have a draw request from your contractor, before you release funds, you are going to have an independent third party ASHI certified home inspector. ASHI is spelled ASHI, by the way. ASHI, and there's another one called NACHI, which I think is NACCHI. I'm not sure on that one. But anyway, ASHI certified home inspector that you already are building a relationship with, and you're going to have them go review all of the things that the contractor is asking to be paid for to make sure that they're actually done and done correctly before you release funds. And it's hard sometimes because the contractors will put a lot of pressure on you. Like, I have to pay my guys, blah, blah, blah. Well, I mean, look, we agreed to this in the beginning. It's, as long as you tell me what's going to be done by Friday, then I'll have the inspector there on Friday afternoon to review everything. So you can't allow the pressure that's being put on you by a contractor to force you into making a bad decision. So that contractor that did the HVAC and basically set everything up, the way we figured out that it wasn't actually like in is when the inspector went there, what he basically said is none of the ductwork is actually like in. It's laid out. Like, the pictures are very specific. He's like, and the condenser, the furnace, none of it is actually installed. So, the contractor was just trying to dupe us to get money. And I don't know what he's planning on doing with it, taking the condenser and the furnace to some other place. I don't know what he was doing, but the way we were able to catch that and not end up paying for it was by having our third party home inspector go in and make sure. And if something's not right, I'm not releasing the draw until it is right. One thing you can do, so let's say that your home inspector goes in and it's like, you know what, these 4 things are done, but this one, it's only done halfway. It's not done all the way. Is I can go back to my contractor and say, look, you said it was all the way done, but it's not, it's only halfway done. So I'll pay you for the other 4 things that are done, but I'm only going to pay you 50% for that because it's not complete. And then the other 50% can be part of the next draw request. Okay. So that is one of the main ways that we will mitigate the risk of a contractor getting money from us for something that wasn't done or wasn't done correctly. Right? On top of us paying for work that's actually been completed and not paying in advance. All right. So one thing I just want to, some of you might have already seen this masterclass, but I did a masterclass a few months back called the flow of money or flow of funds. And I'm going to kind of fast forward to the parts that are relevant for this. Okay, so the way that money flows through a deal when it comes to the rehab portion of it, in the very beginning, you might wire the deposit to the general contractor, right? A very small deposit. Okay, now what we're talking about is after you've called the home inspector, they've gone in, they verified all the work, you are basically wiring the money. Let's say it was a $20,000 draw, you're wiring the $20,000 to the contractor. If you are in a situation where you have a hard money loan, you pay the contractor first, and then you turn in all the documents. You turn in the invoice, the draw request, pictures, the lien release. Every hard money lender operates a little bit differently. So you have to give them all the documents they request. And once they do that, they are then going to send their own inspector out to the property. Now, sometimes people say, oh, well, I mean, if the hard money lender is sending their inspector, then I don't need to spend the money on that. Yes, you do. And here's why. You don't know who they're hiring, what their qualifications are, what their experience is. You're not the client. The hard money lender is the client. And I can tell you story after story after story of other investors that I know that were like, I mean, I got so ripped off by my contractor but I don't understand because my hard money lender was checking the work before they released the draw. But they're not checking it from the same standpoint that you are. And you don't know what the qualifications are for the person that went in. We had one hard money lender that it didn't matter to us because we have our own inspector that inspects, but they would send a realtor to the property to basically just take pictures. So the realtor wouldn't be qualified to say that something was done correctly or incorrectly. Only another licensed general contractor or home inspector would. All right, so after you fill out all the work or all the forms for your hard money lender, they verify that the work was done, then they wire the funds back to you. Okay, so that's the flow of funds from this standpoint. And I just kind of wanted to pull it into here so you can kind of say, okay, got it. So you have your own draw process, verification, and then you submit it to the hard money lender, and they have their own verification process as well. All right. Okay, so just kind of in summarizing that, you're going to have the contract, right, with the scope of work and the draw schedule. You're going to follow your draw process, and then you're going to create those steps for project oversight that allow you to have eyes on the project and not your eyes, even if you're doing it in your own hometown. Again, unless you have a ton of experience with with being a general contractor, you're not the one to put eyes on it. I mean, if you want to go see it, then go see it, but just recognize that is a hobby activity, not a business activity, right? You hire the professionals to go through and look at things through their skilled and experienced lenses. All right, so let's just talk about, like, when you're putting this all together, what is the recipe for success? For one, be the CEO, not the do-it-yourself person. Be the leader. Do not bend and do not break at any point along the process. You're not going to be pressured into sending money ahead. You're not going to be pressured into paying out money before it's been verified. It takes a lot of guts to do that, especially in the beginning. After a while, you don't really care anymore. But in the beginning, it's hard to stand your ground, especially when you're getting a lot of, oh, but my guys, and I need this, and blah, blah, blah. Look, one of the best things that you could ever do for yourself is to start to position yourself in your own mind as the CEO of, let's say, a publicly traded company. The CEO of a publicly traded company is not going to put their job and the financial stability of their company at risk because a vendor is like whining and complaining about wanting to be paid in advance or be paid faster without verifying it. The CEO of a company is like, I mean, I have board members I have to report to. I have shareholders I have to report to. I'm absolutely not wavering on any of our processes. And it's hard sometimes because you look at yourself as just a person, right? You might not be looking at yourself as a CEO. But if you do that, if you say, well, what would I do if I really was the head of a multi-million-dollar company with all these shareholders? If you did things like that and put your company's financial position at risk, you would be fired. Rightfully so, because you're not being careful with the company's money. Well, you are the head of your own company. And if you can start to think that way, it will help you to put your shoulders back, stand up, and make the statements that need to be made and operate your business the way it needs to be operated. Okay. And something it really didn't occur to me when I was building this presentation, but I am going to address it real quick. It just popped in my head. Sometimes when I've been talking to large groups of new investors, I will have, usually one person brings it up, but there's a whole bunch of people who are thinking it, and usually it's someone, it's a woman, and they're like, I mean, how do you keep from the contractors taking advantage of you or just running over you because you're a woman? So I just want to give you, and you really, if you're a guy listening to this, you might be wondering that same thing, like, oh, how they might run over me because I'm new. So let me tell you something. What you expect to receive is what you will receive. So if let's say if you're female and you're like, oh, people are going to treat me different, or contractors are going to treat me different because I'm a woman, you might be calling contractors and you come across as one contractor who's just a total douche. I don't know if I can say that, but anyway, they're a jerk, right? They're just total a-hole. They're just a kind of a nasty human being, right? And you're on the other end of the phone and they're just being obnoxious to you. And if you have the belief that contractors are going to treat you differently because you're a woman, you're going to receive all of that feedback from them, the way that they're acting, to be because you're a female. And it could be that everybody they talk to that same way. So one of the things that you can do to really help turn that around, same thing if you're a new investor and you're not female, because I know guys, you might not be able to relate to that, but you can relate if you're new and you're a little bit nervous about doing rehab. If you are under the impression and belief that people are going to take advantage of you because you're female, black, gay, new, whatever, right? Fill in the blank. Then whatever they do that doesn't meet with your, okay, that's cool, you're just going to believe it's happening because of whatever your fill in the blank is. So you would be best served to just completely throw that belief in the garbage, because frankly, it doesn't matter. You're the CEO of your company. If you're going to be disrespectful to me, a contractor's going to be disrespectful to me, I don't take it as me being a woman. I take it as you're an idiot and you just lost a $75,000 rehab. Have a nice life. Okay, so that's something that if that's something you know you need to start working on, I want you to really give that some thought and think of like, what can you replace that belief with? That people are going to treat me differently? Absolutely not, because you're the CEO. If they don't treat you with respect, they don't get the job. It has nothing to do with your gender or your how new or experienced or anything like that. All right, sorry, I wasn't planning on talking about that, but it just hit me there, and I did want to address it because I know there's a lot of people that do struggle with that. All right, other recipe for success is thoroughly vet your GC, and then of course use project oversight in every way that I just showed you. All right, so I want to just show you a couple of these are just members of our mastermind who, you know, they're on the other end of their first BRRR deal. So I was just gonna, just because it's fun, I was gonna show you a couple of their deals just so you got to get an idea of start to finish. Now, it's funny because over the years that I've been training people, I will teach my students the exact same thing, and usually somewhere in the process they will deviate somewhere, and then I'll hear about it later, and they'll be like, "Oh, now I understand why you teach that." All right. So everybody goes through their own journey. And as much as I will teach you every exact way to do it, I beg you, please follow every single step. But just know whatever step that you're going to end up not following, be prepared so that when you learn whatever lesson, you can come back to this and go, okay, now I understand. I remember Steve once saying in an interview that he thought I was just being like overly cautious and overly anal retentive. And he's like, but then I realized, no, all those things are necessary. All right. So anyway, let's just look real quickly at Steve's. We have a whole bunch of our students who've gotten through their first BRRR deal. I just picked two of them to show you guys today. There's Steve Caro. You guys might have heard of Steve because he's actually done a whole bunch of deals in our mastermind, but this is actually his first BRRR deal. So that was a duplex property that was a fixer-upper. Anyway, so these are some of the before pictures. Ew, yuck, yuck, yuck. And that's pretty much what rehabs look like in the beginning. They're ugly. And then there's some pictures of during the rehab as it was getting into its pretty state, and then after, right? These are actually just rentals too, but they look really nice. It doesn't have to cost a ton of money to do a nice rental rehab. All right, let's talk about some of the numbers. All right, so for this duplex, Steve paid $60,000. For rehab, he put in $30,000, which is a little bit more than he was originally planning, but he decided to do some upgrades while he was doing it of the windows. The property has an after renovation value of $120,000. Okay, so if you're buying it for 60 and putting 30 into it, you're all in 90,000, right? 90-ish. The after renovation value is 120,000. So just by him taking on a BRRR property, he ended up creating equity of $30,000. Now, did he leave his home? Did he leave his job? Did he do any of this himself? No. He lives in Florida. Property's in Indianapolis. So just through having the knowledge and being willing to be the CEO, he's able to create on this one property $30,000 of equity. And then when he got it rented out, each side, it's a duplex, each side rented for $750. So he has $1,500 a month coming in on this property. So he's got monster cash flow plus equity. And that's one of the reasons the BRRR strategy is our favorite strategy when it comes to 1 to 4 family. And we focus on 2 to 4 family, but really 1 to 4 family, the BRRR strategy is our favorite. All right, and then Lupe. Lupe and her husband are in the military, and Lupe was like, you know what? I got to start planning for what's after the military. And she lives in a very expensive area. And so she was like, I got to learn how to invest remotely. So this is her first BRRR duplex. She's actually done 4 deals now. She's done a single family home rental that was already ready. She's done a duplex that had already tenants in there. And then this was her first fixer-upper duplex. All right, so these are some of her before pictures. It wasn't too bad, and it shows you during the rehab and then after the rehab. And I mean, when you have your house looking like this, it shows really well, which allows you to get the highest rent that you can, in a market. Some of her after pictures. All right, so in Lupe's case, her purchase price was $46,000, right? So she got just a great deal on it, $46,000. She ended up putting $35,000 of rehab. into the property. And then the after renovation value was 120,000. So again, she is in the Washington, D.C. area. Property is, I think it's also in Indianapolis. They both happen to be in Indianapolis without ever leaving home. But by her going through and coordinating the rehab, hiring the contractor, doing all the vetting, doing the draw, and just all of that stuff, she ended up creating an equity position for herself of $39,000. Right? That's just property. Right? She had made 4 acquisitions last year. The fourth was an 18-unit apartment building that she ended up partnering with Steve and a couple other people in our mastermind to get. And now she's working on her next, I want to say it's a single family home that she has under contract that she's going to be closing soon. So she made 39,000 of equity on that and got both sides rented out. Ended up having total monthly rent of $1,500. So again, she's got great monster cash flow coming in and equity. Anyway, those are just a couple of examples of, just real people, just like you. A year ago, Steve had just joined the mastermind, had never done a deal before. Like he was just closing on his first deal a little bit less than a year ago. And now he's on the other side of it, has done a whole bunch of properties. Lupe, same thing. She had never bought a property this time last year. I think her first property she bought in August. She did August, September, October, and then November, and now she's about to close on another one in February. All right, so these are people who are new, and they just did their first one, and they did their second. So sometimes all you got to do is get that first one and get the momentum going. All right, so as a reminder, this has nothing to do with the masterclass. However, the masterclass has everything to do with the 5-day challenge. So next week, starting on Monday, we have a free 5-day challenge. All right, so the 5-day challenge, actually, let's see what we're going to cover. On day 1, we're going to be covering basically laying out the entire foundation of the BRRR strategy, right? And because one of the main facets of the BRRR strategy is the rehab, that's why we chose that particular class to do and teach you today. So for those of you who are going to do the challenge, you have that part already. All right, day 2, we're going to talk about how to create massive deal flow in any market. Remember, everything we do, we're talking about teaching how to do anywhere, remotely. All right. The third day, we're going to be talking about financing. How do you initially finance the BRRRR deals? What are your different options for different types of lenders? What are all the pieces to it? Like the loan to value, the ARV, the points, the fees, the interest, what is all of that? And then what about when you refinance? How does that work and what's realistic? So day 3 is going to be all about financing. Day 4 is going to be, how do you actually analyze a deal? How do you analyze a deal and know what is the right offer to make? The BRRRR strategy is probably one of the more complicated ones to back into. So I'm just going to take you step by step through that process so that you can figure out, okay, if I offer this and there's this much rehab, and then this is the ARV, then when I go to refinance, I'll be able to, pull back, X amount of my capital that I invested in the deal. All right. And then day 5 is going to be where we start pulling all of the pieces together and just help you kind of create your own path to freedom plan. All right, so that is next week. Oh, wait, and hold on one second. If you are not registered yet and you would like to join the 5-day challenge, the website is right there at the top, wow5daychallenge.com. And I don't exactly understand why, but you don't put the www there. I'm not really a tech person, so I don't understand the difference, but I know when I do it, it doesn't work. So just put in your browser wow5daychallenge.com, and what it will do is it will pull up Messenger. It's because our registration process is through a Messenger registration bot. So anyway, it will get you registered, get your email. It'll email you a confirmation with a link to get 2 more bonus masterclasses that you could watch ahead of time and just, again, start laying the foundation so that next week when it's game time, we're going. So every day of the challenge, it's teach, and then here's your homework. And everything of homework is about taking action and doing the next step. Our goal at the end of the challenge is for that your business is it's up and going because you've done every step of it. All right. So we're going to do Q&A here in just a minute, but we know just from doing these classes and stuff, there's sometimes people are like, you know what, I'm really interested, but I really don't want to do it by myself. And I kind of want someone to hold my hand as we do it. So over the next few days, we've set aside time to talk with you and see if we can help. So we'll chat for probably 30 minutes or so and just map out an action plan for you to follow so that you can start building your real estate portfolio, or scaling your business. So maybe you've already been doing properties or doing it at home. You want to learn to do it remotely, or you've been doing it. Now you're trying to do apartments. Whatever it is that's your real estate goal, everything that we focus on in Warriors of Wealth is related to passive income investing. Everything from the duplex fixer-upper to performing duplex, all the way through apartment buildings, doing value add projects or stabilize. So we really try to be the one-stop shop for everyone who wants to build a passive income business. But if that's something that you want to learn more about, and you're like I said, you don't want to do it on your own, you want a mentor, you want coaching, you want to be part of a mastermind, then we're available to chat with you and do a little strategy session with you. So if that's something that you're interested in doing, this is how you do that. You're going to text the word freedom. Don't put the quotes in because it makes our text program upset, apparently. But you're going to text the word freedom to the Warriors of Wealth hotline. And that number is 619-373-8461. And what will happen when you text the word freedom to that number, it will just, we have a program to basically send you a link back where you can click on the link and then schedule a time to chat. All right. That is all that we have for your class today. We are going to transition to Q&A. So I'm going to let Jen is going to start bringing everybody over. He's a panelist now you're called a panelist. Let me stop sharing.
There are 8 questions already.
All right. Okay, so as everyone gets pulled over, I'm going to give that a few minutes for everyone to get on over. And then we'll start taking questions. Give us about 2 minutes to get everyone on. And don't be shy. Any questions you have, we are here. We are here to serve you in whatever way that we can today, any of your real estate questions.
The heck? So many people.
All right. Well, we do have a lot of people. That's exciting. I was trying to find my other earphones because these ones squish my hair. All right. I've lost sound. Jen and Stacy are muted. Anyone else? Okay. Well, we were muted because we were letting Jen bring everybody on. So everybody who's on right now, please put camera to on. It's really weird as a teacher to just speak to a whole bunch of typed out names. So everyone, please put your camera on unless you are naked or eating something egregious or whatever. Otherwise, let's have a face-to-face conversation. All right. I see there's questions in the Q&A typed and questions in the chat. So I'm going to start in the chat first, answer those questions, and then I'll be in the Q&A. Oh, Steve. So remember when I was talking about Steve? Now Steve's here. Now you guys can see his face.
I would start in the Q&A first.
Oh, start in the Q&A first? Okay. Jen says start in the Q&A first. Whoa. Who just shared their screen? All right. You are sharing your screen. Lon, I don't know how you did that, but somehow you shared your screen. All right. Start with Q&A. Okay. Gigi. So we ask to be added as additional insured on their liability insurance. Yes. Okay, that was easy. Yes, that's exactly what you do. Allison, I'm a little confused, but you're saying to ask the contractor to add you, the title owner, to their liability insurance. Yes, that's exactly right. And again, if you've never done it before, that might sound a little bit odd, but it's not unusual or odd at all for the contractor to receive that request, because anyone who's done any kind of investing or projects, that is a really common request for contractors. So you're asking to be added to their liability insurance as an additional insured. All right, Sherry, will they be willing to add you to the insurance when you haven't even hired them yet? What if they say, well, if I get the job, I'll add you then? Yeah, you wouldn't actually be asking for them to add you to the insurance policy unless you were basically moving forward with them. That's a good question. It's not something you would do if you were like, well, maybe I'm going to hire you. It's more like, okay, we're moving forward now. And that's the time that you would ask for that. But you're not going to exchange funds or anything like that until you have that document back. Anonymous attendee. All right. If everyone is on, do you somehow segment? So,
He's talking about Marco Polo.
oh, okay, thank you. I was like, huh? Okay, if everyone is on, do you somehow segment so all are not seeing others' info, just you and the intended team? Okay, so in the case of Marco Polo, you can actually set up teams or not teams, groups on Marco Polo. So you would say, like, let's say I had, and I always do it groups based on like the project. So sometimes it's just me and the contractor. Sometimes it's me and Jen and the contractor. Sometimes it's me, the contractor, the real estate agent, and Jen. It just depends on what we're trying to accomplish and where we are in the project. So even on one given project, I might have 3 or 4 different groups depending on who needs to have information about it. All right. And only those people who are in that group can see the Marco Polos. And there's sometimes where I'll give you an example of why you'd have your real estate agent and your contractor. So this is more like when you're doing a fix and flip is when it's more relevant. But if I'm doing a fix and flip and my contractor says, hey, we have a couple of different options for granite. We can either do blah, 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 or blah, blah, blah. If you're really like design minded, you might be like, oh, I really like the, I don't even know. I'm not. So, but so like what I will typically do is say, you know what, let me ask the realtor, or let's ask the realtor what makes the most sense based on that buyer demographic, the price point we're going for, because the realtor is going to be the one to know, the realtor who I'm going to sell it with is going to be the one who's going to know that the best. So we'll have a group Marco Polo so that the contractor can say, these are the 2 different ones I was talking about. And I'm just looking for some feedback, which one will be better. Okay. So that's why we would do like a group Marco Polo that included the realtor when it comes down to design things or something that might impact the sale. Yeah, and nobody else can see those Marco Polos. All right, Sherry, do you request for materials receipts in addition to the contractor's bill? For example, plumbing, do you get the receipts for the pipes, faucets, tub, vanity, et cetera, to support the figure they're quoting for their draw? You can, but we don't. So because when a contract, it's just the way that we run our jobs. When a contractor gives us a bid, we're asking for labor and materials. So I'm not asking you show me like how much the faucet was. I don't care if you told me it's going to be this much money for this to get done. I don't need the receipt for that. What I need to see is that that new faucet is installed, which is what I would have our third party home inspector to do. So we personally don't. I don't think that there's anything wrong with doing it. It's just I don't want to say micromanaging, but it's managing a little bit too much detail than what we feel like we need to do. So we don't require those things. Carol, do you pay the contractor before you get the draw from the hard money lender? Typically, Carol, yes. Occasionally, like Paul, the one you happen to see, he was a contractor who actually we didn't have to do very many draws because he was just really well funded. He was a bigger company, and he didn't need us to pay him like immediately. So we were able to request the draw from the hard money lender and then pay him. But that's not typical. Usually contractors want to get paid right away. So one of the things you have to plan for when you're doing a rehab is you need to make sure you have some liquid capital, because there's a delay in between the time that the project gets or the work gets done and you receive the money from the hard money lender. So you need to be able to fund paying the contractor so that they don't end up going off to another job where they're getting paid more timely. So you can pay them after you have verified everything, and then you get reimbursed by the hard money lender. But yeah, you can't run rehab projects too tight on money because there's that delay. And then sometimes, like, you might have a situation where the hard money lender's like, well, we're only going to give you 60% of that thing because like one of the mastermind mentors, Battelle, last year, where she was requesting like the demo from the hard money lender, and she had paid the contractor because the demo was clearly done. Well, the hard money lender was like, oh, but there's a whole bunch of stuff in the piled in the backyard. We're not you up for the demo. And she was like, what? So there are occasions where the hard money lender will decision, well, we're not going to release the whole because this isn't done. So you got to be able to manage and handle the kind of floating a little bit. And that's why you don't want to be super tight. This really comes into play a lot when you start doing multiple projects. So one of the things that we always advise all of our mastermind members, and I will advise you the same, is especially in the beginning, doing one project at a time, especially if you're doing rehab. And I'm never, I mean, we got Steve on here. I could barely keep a leash on him. He was trying to buy so many properties at one time, but you know, they weren't all rehab. And one of the challenges that you face when you start doing a whole bunch of rehabs at the same time is you have to be able to float a lot of liquid capital. And that timing thing with the hard money lender, if you have a couple of projects where you don't get all the money in that you thought, you get very uncomfortable very quickly. So it's something that you want to be very cognizant of when you start doing rehab. You got to have liquid capital. And if you're going to do 2 projects, don't think, oh, I just need to have double the liquid. You actually need to have more because you don't know what's going to happen when. So just proceed with caution, you know, in that front. Parham, I don't know if you read this or not, but fantastic points. Thank you. Yes, I do. And thank you very much. Carol, how much does the five-day challenge cost? $1 million. Just kidding. It's free. It's just something that we do to serve our Facebook community. We did our first one in December and we had so much fun. We actually did it while we were in Mexico for 3 weeks and we had so much fun. We're like, let's do a 5-day challenge for apartments. So we did that last month. And then we're like, let's do a 5-day challenge for the BRRRR strategy. So that's what we're doing next week. And then we are taking a few months off because it's a lot of work and we're tired. So anyway, but yeah, it's free. You can register and just come in and learn and grow. And it's really great for networking with other people and just getting inspired to start taking action. Erica, what is the norm of inspection period and settlement period after inspection period for commercial 5+ units? Oh, okay. It kind of depends on the size. So I'm going to answer it more for apartments in general, but really the larger the apartment building, the more true this is. It's most common to have a 30-day due diligence period when it comes to apartments. So 30 and sometimes even 45 days. I don't see that as much, but 30 days is usually a minimum that you'd ask for inspection, whereas in 2 to 4 units, it's more like 10 days, maybe up to 14. And then the settlement period for apartments, because apartment financing tends to take longer than residential financing, and you're not typically going through a hard money lender for it, the settlement period can be anywhere from another 30 to 45 days up to 60. The larger the projects get, as far as the number of units, the more days you would typically ask for. So it's not unheard of to ask for a 30-day due diligence period and then a 90-day closing total. But more commonly, you see 30, 60. So I'll get 30 days of due diligence and I have 30 more days to close it. You want to try to get your due diligence done as quick as possible, know that the deal works, and then you can get your financing started. The shorter the period that you can make the offer for, the more competitive your offer will be. But you always have to balance that because you don't want to get yourself short on time. You need time to do everything.
I'll take the next one.
Okay.
So the last one is Jonathan. So Jonathan Pay says, so your main strategy is BRRRR. Do you ever join forces with other investors to purchase a larger apartment complex, such as 50 units or more? The short and simple of that, Jonathan, is no, I don't like to share. But in all seriousness, we know how to do syndication. We're trained on it. We even teach people how to do it in the mastermind if they want to, but we focus primarily on value add. So BRRRR is like that for the 1 to 4 units and doing things of that nature. But when it comes to apartments, we'll do a value add on that. We don't really share. We basically go in with our own money, our own resources, keep our own equity, and keep our own cash flow. Hopefully that was answered the question. I think there's more.
Yeah. Okay, I'll go in and answer them. One thing that I just will say for everyone here, and Jonathan, I don't know the position that you're in, but everybody's in a different position. The one thing that's different for us now is we're in a financial position where we can do that. And Jen's like, I share, right? When I was a brand new investor, we didn't we weren't up together way back in 2003 yet. So when I was a brand new investor, I didn't have any money. I made like decent money at my job, but I didn't have like capital to invest. So when you're new and you don't have capital to invest, it's really, really common and normal to partner up with someone who does, and then both of you benefit. And I'll give you a really good example of this. I want to encourage you guys, if you don't have the capital to do it, and oftentimes you're not necessarily going to have it yet, right? Because you're just getting started, or maybe in the process of growing. But when you don't have the resources, you just want to bring together a team to bring it to create it. So Steve, who I don't know where he is on your guys' screen, he's right in the middle of my screen, right? One of the things that he did this year that was really amazing, or in 2020, is he found an 18-unit value add project that had a huge amount of upside. And he even found it with like seller financing. Like, it was amazing, but it required a lot of capital. He had some of it, but he didn't have all of it. So he didn't, and what we really focus on, we try to teach you guys how to do real estate without syndication. Because a lot of times when people are focusing on syndication as our first deal, they'll literally never get it. And that's such a screaming shame. We can't handle it. So we try to focus on teaching people how to do all of this without syndicating and just make it simple. So Steve ended up partnering up with a couple other people in the mastermind. They pulled together the funds and took it down, and now they're in the process of doing the value add on that unit. So but yeah, we don't partner personally, because we're just at the point in our career where we don't need to, and and Jen doesn't like to share, so there's that. But it's really normal when you're new to do that. And I would tell you, don't ever wait until you can do it at home, because you could 2, 3, 4 years could easily go by like that. Instead, you can actually get in the game right now by going for it and just bringing in a partner who can be the funding side, but maybe they're not going to spend the time like you guys are learning and growing and then doing all the work of the deal. Okay.
I'm sorry that I failed kindergarten.
What?
That's where they taught you how to share.
Oh my goodness. Okay, let's see. All right, I'm in the chat. No audio. Can anyone else hear? Hello there. Okay. Okay, I'm just reading all the comments. Okay, I'll eventually get down. Okay, so Parham, what's the name of the app? I think you were talking about Marco Polo. Oh, never mind. Jen answered it right there. Okay. Sorry, I'm just looking for the questions. Okay, Crystal. Question about the forms for the scope of work. I just want to make sure I know where to access them. It is the HML, or do we have them on hand? It could actually be either, Crystal, and you can really Google scope of work form and you could find one, but some hard money lenders will have their own form. So like we do a lot with IMC Money, and IMC Money, they have their own form. So you got to figure out how to get your rehab project into their categories. But I've had other hard money lenders that are like, I don't know, just put something together. We'll take a look at it. It kind of depends on if they're more like institutional, then they are more likely to have their forms they want done because they're big and they operate, they got to have systems. And one a little bit smaller, they're more flexible and we'll take whatever you give them. So either way, it's not hard to find. You can just Google it and find a sample there. But Excel is, you want to do it in Excel so that it's easy to make adjustments. Okay, let me see. Karen, as a first-time buyer, I'm looking to house hack with a multi-family. How much rehab is not going to be too overwhelming for me to oversee? I mean, that's a hard question to answer, Karen, because we don't teach overseeing rehab yourself. What we teach is hire a professional and hire a third-party independent home inspector to review the work. So in my opinion, there's really no amount of rehab that's too much if you're following that system. So I can't answer the question for you, what's going to be too overwhelming for you, because frankly, I don't really want you overseeing rehab. But same principles that we taught here and still apply it to that property and just treat it like an investment. And I know you're going to move into it and you're going to house hack, but if you separate those two, it's almost like you can practice doing an investment property the proper way and kind of get the feel of it. So as soon as that house hack is done, you're ready for your next project. You've already gone through it once, and it's a lot. Your first one's always going to be the most challenging because the learning curve is like vertical. Even if I teach you every single step, it's still, once you're doing it, you're like, oh, okay, that's what it is. And things start to come together in a different way. Let's see. Please share. Okay, Sherry, please share how to find your own personal inspector. Okay, so for finding home inspectors, you can, you could Google home inspectors in whatever city. We like to use OSHI certified home inspectors because it is a designation that is reserved for people who go through the time to get all the extra training and hours and everything else. So whenever they're available, we always do OSHI certified home inspectors. And I want to say it's like OSHI.org. It's something that you might have to Google it. Like you can just put in OSHI, ASHI, certified home inspector, and then it'll bring up the website. And then you go in there, you put the zip code, and it will basically give you a list of people in that area, and then you can start calling them. They do have associates who are maybe in training. Those are not the people I'm looking to hire. So I'm all about the little guy, go ahead, but not on my rehab. So yeah. Let's see. From LC, is the draw schedule and scope of work something the contractor provides? It depends on the contractor that you're working with. And if they have done a scope of work and or draw schedule for other investors, then they will probably have it. My experience has been that almost always I have to provide it to them. So it really just depends. You should plan on doing it yourself. If they happen to do it, then you're taking it and you're really reviewing it in detail. Because of course, when you're creating it yourself, you're paying a lot closer attention to everything, right? So I think you should plan on doing it. The scope of work is something that even if the contractor's not providing it to you and you're starting off creating it, the other thing you can do, something we do with our contractors, is they'll give me like a bid and it's might be detailed out, and I'll say, oh, this is cool, but I need more detail on these 4 line items. And then do me a favor, here's a blank scope of work, go put everything on this form. So I still push it back to them to do, but I'll provide the form and then I'll have them break out the amounts. Especially the first time, you might have to go back and forth a couple of times with them to get them to do it correctly. The draw schedule, I've never had a contractor who gave me a draw schedule. I've always provided it. But again, if they worked with other investors before, they might have it. So, but you should plan on being the one to initiate that. All right, Naomi, I know with offers, speed is the name of the game, but if we're working on putting financials together, getting a contractor out to the property to give us rehab costs, and having to interact with others to make sure we complete offer calculations, wouldn't that slow things down and minimize the change of getting your offer in? I have to read that again. Oh, chance.
She's asking if we send a contractor out there to get a bid before placing an offer.
Okay. Yeah, we do not send contractors out to get bids beforehand. And the reason is, if you did that, I'm telling you, you'll see when you start making offers, you make a lot of offers that are not accepted. And then all of a sudden one gets accepted and you're like, whoa, oh my, okay. Oh, what do I do next? First you throw up because you're completely freaked out that you actually got an offer accepted. And then you're like, okay, so you will make a lot of offers that aren't accepted. Think about it from the contractor standpoint. If you had someone who was constantly being like, hey, could you look at this property? Could you look at this property? Could you look at it? They keep doing that and they're not making any money. How long do you think it's going to be before they stop taking your call? So that's really the reason you do it. And yes, it puts more pressure on during the due diligence. That's just the name of the game. So ideally, that's why once you have deal flow coming in, Naomi, you want to start building your contractor team so that as soon as you find out the offer is accepted, here's the deal. When you have a 10-day due diligence period, the day you find out the offer is accepted or it's been signed, that's actually day 0. Day 1 doesn't even start until tomorrow. All right. So on day 0, the moment you find out it's been accepted, you want to be on the phone with the contractors you've already talked to that you've determined, yeah, I think they might be a good fit, and get them scheduled to get out to the property by day 1 or day 2. So it's just due diligence time. It's crazy town. But if you want to be competitive and getting your offer in quickly, you're not going to send your contractor out ahead of time. And I'll tell you, all of you guys, something. Because sometimes it's like, oh, I just want to know the rehab so I can make the right offer. That's great. Go ahead and do that. But let me tell you what's going to happen. While you're calling your contractor, you're scheduling it, Jen and I are writing the offer on the same property. Okay. Who's your competition here? We are. I mean, it's unlikely that we're probably competing on the same property, but there's a lot of experienced investors out there like us, like all of you, like we're training you to be, and literally everybody we've trained over the last 10 years has been taught, act fast. Do not try to do all the due diligence before you even have the property, because chances are you're not going to get the property anyway. And while you're doing that, you're losing the deals. And there's even people who come into our mastermind and I'll teach them that and they're like, okay, I get it, but I just feel more comfortable. And then after like the fourth time that they're like, I lost out on the deal because I made the offer and I found it was just got accepted. And it happens a few times. And then they're like, okay, fine, I'll just make the offer. So I know it's a little bit of a mental shift, but if you can just make that mental shift now, then you don't have to suffer through that part. All right. So make the offer. If it gets accepted, deploy your contractors. And here's the deal. Anybody who's ever done a deal before can tell you, when you get to the end of due diligence, if you need more time and it's day 9 or day 10, and you go to the seller and just say, look, I just need an extra like 2 days. Everything is looking good. I just need an extra 2 days to verify XYZ. It's really unlikely they're going to say no. Because what you're saying is, look, I'll still close at the same time I was going to close, but I just need a couple extra days to verify this. They're really unlikely to go, forget it, and put it back on the market. Now they have to wait for another offer, go back and forth, and now they're just delaying their money. So they're going to probably extend the due diligence. Don't worry too much about it. You're best just to get in there, get it under contract, and now it's yours to play with because they can't accept another offer as long as yours is under contract. All right, Lonnie, is proof of funds necessary to submit an offer? It depends, Lonnie, it really depends on the realtors and the market. So there's some markets where if you tried to submit an offer without having a proof of funds, the agent's going to be like, I'm not going to submit this until you give me your proof of funds, because I need to submit the offer with the proof of funds. And then there's other markets where you'll submit an offer to your realtor and they'll just put in the contract, proof of funds will be submitted within 48 hours of acceptance. So I think it probably largely depends on how hot the market is, how much of a seller's market it is. And then sometimes it might not even be a seller's market, but your agent is just like, look, I want to do everything. They're usually probably somebody super anal. Like I would probably be this person. Look, I need to check every box so that it presents the best. So I need your proof of funds. So you might have some agents which they drive me crazy. People like me would drive me crazy if I had an agent, but they might just look, I just want to have everything tight. So when we submit the offer, it's strong, it's professional, etc. So, and there's proof of funds programs out there. I'll be interviewing IMC Money the week after the challenge. And I know that they have a proof of funds program, and it used to be free. And after COVID, once COVID hit, that just shifted their business model. And now it's not free anymore, but they'll do like a certain number of proof of funds a month for next week. And then so that way you can always have it when you submit it. Or if you have a bank statement, a retirement account, a stock account, a home equity line of credit, like any of those things, if you happen to have them, can be used as your proof of funds. Just because you submit a proof of funds for a deal doesn't commit you at all in any way, shape, or form to using those funds. So let's say you have a retirement account that has enough money to close on the deal, but you have absolutely no intention of using that retirement account. You're probably going to go use a hard money lender and some other funds to close it. It doesn't matter. The proof of funds is just like to get through the gate, and then you can use whatever form of money that you want to actually close. And I would say ideally, if you can get a proof of funds or set up on some kind of proof of funds program, it will make your life easier. But some realtors don't care and they'll just submit it without it. All right, Joe, where does everyone find their deals? Through wholesalers, on or off market deals? Well, this is something I'll definitely cover in detail on Tuesday, but I'll answer it somewhat quickly. There's a handful of different ways to find deals. If you're like a traditional wholesaler, you probably have all sorts of letter campaigns and skip tracing and door knocking and bandit signs and all those stuff. We don't do any of those things because frankly, it's too much time, it's too expensive, and it doesn't really work very well in a lot of markets anymore. So we leverage agents in multiple markets because you can find them very easily, real estate agents and wholesalers. And it's interesting because sometimes people say, oh, I don't want to use real estate agents because I want off-market deals. Well, I'll tell you that a lot of the deals that have happened for students in our mastermind were off-market from a realtor, because the realtors are the ones that find out the most when there's a deal like one of their clients has, and they're like, I don't want to list it on the MLS, but do you know somebody who might want to buy it? So a lot of deals end up happening that were never listed, but you would never find out about it if you didn't have the relationship with the realtor. So realtors to me is like, it's your absolute number one fastest way to get deals. But we also buy from other wholesalers, especially if they've done the due diligence and it's in a market we want, it's a strategy we want. Those are the primary ways. But I mean, these days you can find properties on Craigslist, on Facebook Marketplace. It just takes a little bit more time and your own time doing it. On Tuesday in the challenge, I'm going to get deep into how to do the realtor outreach so that you could really leverage real estate professionals for both on MLS properties and off MLS or pocket listings. John, can I rewatch the recording? Absolutely. This class is actually in two places. One, when it will be a Facebook group because we're doing it live there, and it doesn't get rid of it. It's just there. You might have to just scroll down or go to videos or media or something like that and see it there. But also, probably within a couple of days, you'll get an email with the link to the replay, or a link to this. We'll load this onto YouTube and then we'll send out the link to everyone. So you can absolutely go back and watch all of it or just a part of it. If there's a certain part you're like, I want to take more notes on that, we will make that available to you. All right. So I'm trying to understand the HML cash flow. Do you pay the GC when it's time to pay the draw and then the hard money lender sends the payment to you? Okay. Do you pay the GC when it's time to pay the draw and the hard money? Okay, yes. Sorry. So the flow of money is most typically in a deal that once the contractor has submitted their draw request to you and you have sent your inspector out to verify the work is done and is done, that you immediately, you do not want to delay payment to your contractor. That is, it's not good for them. It's really not good for you because they will go to another job and start working so they can get paid while they're waiting for you to pay. And now maybe they're gone for another week or two before you can get them back to your property. So you want to pay them quickly and on time, but not before it's actually been verified. And so yes, you pay them and then you request a draw from the hard money lender to essentially reimburse you for that. And that's why I was saying earlier, you got to have some liquid capital as that buffer because there's a timing difference that you're dealing with. Sherry, do you need to get a real estate attorney in the area you're going to invest so that you can have someone drop your purchase contract or do all the title, escrow, and closing work? Okay, I'm going to answer that question first and then I'll read the next one. You do not need a real estate attorney. Depending on where you're doing it, well, first of all, in all markets, if you're dealing with a real estate agent, you're just using the state contract. And your real estate agent is taking the terms that you have communicated to them and the offer you want to make, and they're putting it onto the contract. And then you're signing it and they're submitting it. You don't need a real estate attorney for that at all. The title, escrow, and closing work is done by, we would call them a title agent. In some parts of the country, it's a title attorney. But like in California, there's no such thing as that. But in Florida, I think in Florida, there's title attorneys. And then in a lot of parts on the East Coast, there's title attorneys. But it's not attorney the way they're thinking of it. Oh, it's like real estate attorney. It's just that in that particular state, in order for someone to do the title, they have to have a law degree. I can't imagine using my law degree for that, but I guess that's how it is. So the way you should look at it is just look at it as closing agent. Okay, whether that's title company, title and escrow, or title attorney. And some states you have to use two different ones. Like in Illinois, I mean, it's been like a million years since I closed a property in Illinois, but in Illinois, it was super bizarre. I had to do part of the transaction with a real estate attorney and the other part with a title company. And then the title company and the attorney had to be in communication with each other. And I was like, wow. And I was at the escrow company and they were like, what do you got? I'm like, right, I was from California. That's all I knew about. Anyway, so yeah, you don't need an actual real estate attorney for regular real estate transactions unless you want them to, but it's not common. When you get into apartments, that's a different story because you might be using a real estate attorney, not for drawing up the contract, that's what you have a broker for, but if there's financing, you are especially involving your attorney, and you might just have your attorney review everything before you close and make sure everything looks okay. Second set of eyes. And then, and then the rest of the question was, wouldn't that need to be done before you have deal flow so you're not floundering when someone comes your way? Yeah, no, because you don't need a real estate attorney. Also, do you need to get an LLC set up in each state also? No. So it depends on what your strategy is. And it's funny, in the mastermind yesterday, we just had an opportunity to have Corey from Anderson Advice come on, and we were just talking all about that. yesterday. So it really depends. I won't get into a super long explanation on asset protect because we just did an interview with one of the founders of Anderson a couple of weeks ago. So you can find it in the Facebook group, an interview with Clint Coons. You're not going to set up an LLC in each state like initially because you might be reaching out in 2 or 3 different markets. And I'm telling you what, you just don't know where the deal, your first deal is going to end up landing. So when you end up getting a deal, you might set up one LLC just as your operating LLC. When you end up landing a deal in a state and you're going through due diligence, everything looks good, you're going to close. If you're going to set up a new LLC, I would just do it at that time and not set up a bunch of LLCs in different states for the what if I buy a property there. Because not only are you paying to have the LLC set up initially, you're also paying an annual filing fee with the state. Plus, you're going to have to do a tax return for every LLC that you have. I mean, depending on how it's set up. So there's a lot of expense and a lot of time and a lot of logistics with having LLCs, and you just want to make sure that you actually need them before you set them up. And it's usually pretty quick to get them set up. So it's not something that I would try to do a whole lot in advance, other than if you're just going to have your main LLC that you're, operating business in, so that you have like your name and it's your thing. You can also take that same LLC and you could register it in that state where the property is as a foreign entity. So this is one of those situations where you do want to talk to your attorney or your asset protection team to make sure it's set up in the best way possible for you, because everyone's different. Like your age, your goals, your assets, and all those things would change the way you would set up an asset protection structure. So if you, I know that in the interview, they made it available. I know it's available to everyone in our mastermind, but in the interview at the time, Clint said that they will do a free strategy session for anyone that wanted it. So if that's something that you want to do and you want to talk to someone along those lines as you're setting it up, you can. I'm just going to type the thing in real quick. There. You can click that link and then basically you can schedule a free strategy session with them. All right, and then it made me go all the way to the bottom. Let me scroll back up and find where I was. You guys have so many questions. I love that. Okay, love avid question askers. All right. Okay, so Jason Kent. Oh, Jason Kent. Oh, now I know who you are. Okay. Okay, I'm going to read this because it was sent to me privately, and so I can figure out what it says, and then I will say it. Okay, so I think Jason Kent and I had we had a similar contractor. So let me read this real quick, and it wasn't a good experience. Oh, wow. Okay. Well, yeah, Jason, I am really sorry that you ended up working with him too. I know everyone's like, wait, what are you guys talking about? We had him.
Don't tell me. Are you kidding?
No.
Oh, Jason.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You can't see it because he just sent it to me.
Ugh.
I'm really sorry that you had the unfortunate experience. Oh, now I see where you are. Yeah. Trust me, when we say that name, it's like Voldemort, right?
Yeah.
And Harry Potter. In our house is Jennifer gets a little psychotic. Like she gets ready to go get on a plane and go beat some ass.
I want to teach him jujitsu.
She says she wants to teach him some jujitsu. Anyway, contractors are challenging. Okay. And yes, thank you for sending that privately. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. I don't know. Is Ada or Ada? How do you verify materials used on your projects? Well, one of the ways that you can, for when you're dealing with rental property, it's a little bit less of a concern because you're not trying to put in like the highest level quality materials. But if that is a concern, or if you're doing a flip or anything like that, you can actually define the material. You could. This is not my style, but I have met other investors who will define SKU numbers of what the materials need to be, because they're like, I want this exact faucet and this and this. And I'm like, I don't know what looks good. Just someone tells me what looks good. So that's not my style of managing at that level, but you can, if you're concerned about the quality of material or anything like that, you can define what it is. Or when we were working with Paul, we had a really, really high end project in Kansas. And I can't remember what they called it, but they were like, it was certain grades of granite. And so when we were going through the quoting process, he's like, look, I can get you this grade and it would be this part of the budget, or this grade, this part of the budget, or this much in the budget. And I had to pull in the realtor, and I was like, okay, so if we're trying to sell it for this much, what level of granite do we need? Because the contractor's offering me these options, and frankly, I'm not sure what to tell them, because I don't know buyers in the area. You do. And so I had to just pull in our realtor to advise on how to do that. And then the grade of granite was defined in the scope of work. So that's how you can do it, just by being more prescriptive. And there's nothing wrong with doing that.
Can I add something? I know you're in a hurry here. I know how excited you are about it. I just wanted to say that I am one of those people, right? Like I get overly prescriptive. So I had a packet where it would be, these are the lowest end finishes, middle end finishes. And if I wanted a high end finish, these were like the categories so they could see the look of it. It wasn't down to the SKU level, but it was a talking point when drafting up the contract with the contractor and identifying the scope of work and what that was going to look like. And because I gave that proactively, he was able to have a little bit of autonomy and authority. One thing about contractors that I've learned over the years is they hate to be pace set. They don't like to be nagged. And the more you can communicate upfront and agree on meetings and timelines and finishes and all of those things, it's more like a relationship instead of it becoming this really crazy situation where things are wrong. So I like to communicate a lot of that up front and just create like a little packet of what those finishes look like for you. And it all is based on your exit. So I am one of those OCD people, and it works out though. So just my opinion.
Yeah, that's actually a good point, because in different markets at different levels, we have said, here's some examples. Okay, that's true. Okay, let me see. Crystal, okay, Crystal, you ended up asking it in the Q&A, so I answered that. No pudding cup for you, Jen. Uh-oh. I don't know what that means, but it sounds like you're in trouble. Oh, okay. Okay, George, do you handle your payments through Cash App as a business? You know what? I have not used Cash App until very recently, and it's only because we had a couple of tenants who asked, and our property manager said, can you accept Cash App? And I was like, what's Cash App? And so I was like, okay, sure. So I downloaded it. I've never paid a contractor through Cash App. I don't know how much you could do it. Anytime that we're doing a rehab, we always have paid through wire transfer. Occasionally, when we're in a situation where we have multiple, because like at one point back in, I think it was 2017, 2018, at one moment in time, it was a very stressful moment in time. We had 12 rehabs going on, and FYI, that's too freaking many. But I was like, oh my God, like managing the cash on that was like, wow. And it's funny because Jen will say, especially on the last deal, she's like, I literally said, no more deals. Okay. And I was like, okay, I promise. And then what are you going to do? And then they give you a good deal and you're like, I can't pass it up.
She literally came to me and said, but it's $40,000 in equity that will profit. And I was like, ah, shit, do it.
Yeah. Anyway, so I just overextended like how much liquid capital we had at the moment. So we started getting creative and using like credit cards that we end up getting points on. And then we were like, oh, that's kind of cool. So you can use credit cards, especially there's lots of 0% ones out there if you have good credit. And that is what we were using. The only downside of that is that the contractor gets charged a merchant fee of like 3%. So, our average rehab was between $40,000 and $100,000. So on $100,000, if we were charging $100,000 on a credit card, that'd be $3,000 of fees. The contractor's going to be like, no, I'm not absorbing that. So in a case like that, we're going to end up having to pay more. But using credit cards is an option, but I've never done Cash App. So mostly it's wire transfers. Occasionally, if I need to get some money quickly to someone, I've been able to do like Venmo. But we mostly just do wire transfers because it's usually like large chunks of money and they make them jump through hoops and then we'll wire it. At one point in time, before we had all those rehabs going on, and I wasn't traveling a whole lot at the time, I would just go to the bank to do the wire transfer. When I started traveling to do training, having more and more rehabs, and I was like, I can't physically go in the bank every time. So just so that you know, like Chase, Wells Fargo, probably all the major banks and probably some of the smaller ones too, do have, especially probably now since COVID, they probably all have it, but they do have ways for you to do wire transfers online, even large ones. Like we have like a security token from Wells Fargo. We have to put in a code that's a link to a satellite to say, yes, it's me. But that can be facilitated, without you having to like run to the bank every time. I wish somebody would have told me that, because I went to the bank for way too long and I didn't even know it was an option. So there you go. Let's see. I don't like sharing either, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do. Right. I agree. That was my point. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, while you're looking for the next question, I was actually going to add to one little loophole when you have 12 rehabs going on at once and all of your cash is really tight. Another loophole that you could do is have the contractor using an account at Home Depot that's yours, right? Getting the materials and getting everything approved through you so that you don't have to put so much cash out there, but you're not running up against that 3% fee.
That was a good one. I forgot about that.
Hey man, I don't talk often, but when I do,
it's a gem. She's like, I speak infrequently, and that way people listen when I talk. All right. Crystal, I have forms for everything except this one. Is that you're talking about the scope of work? Okay. Yeah, I think you're gonna have no problem finding that online. And if for some reason you can't find it, then just message me and I'll figure out a way to get one to you. But I know you can get it online. Christoph, I do Venmo, PayPal, Zelle as well. Oh, actually, you're right. PayPal is one that we have done sometimes, Christoph. Yeah, and Zelle, the challenge that we've had with Zelle is that they don't operate with business accounts with some of the banks, and so you're sometimes limited with Zelle. But it depends. Like sometimes if you're doing small payments, you actually have a lot of different options. You could do Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, Zelle, Chase Pay, any of those. But when you're doing a bigger payment, it typically has to be through a wire transfer or some other method where you can send a large amount. Karen, I meant hiring out a contractor, not oversee. I don't remember what that was related to, so I don't know what that means. I'm sorry. Sherry, are you able to soundproof your units from one another? Do you make sure to do that even if new drywall on the shared walls necessary? We have never done that before, Sherry, and we've also never had an issue. So I've never heard of any complaint from our property manager that our tenants were complaining about hearing noise. So I'm not really sure how to answer that question. I don't know if it's just the construction of the buildings. We tend to focus on older buildings. We like early 1900s. A lot of our properties are that are the smaller ones, like the 2 to 4 family, or tend to be older in construction, but we've purposely done it or specifically done it because it's never come up. What asset class do you invest in for BRRR? I'm not 100% sure that I know what you mean, but I'll answer what I think you're asking. So generally speaking, the BRRR strategy, we don't really do it for single family homes typically, but it's ideal for 1 to 4 family. If you're doing it for single family, you're probably doing it to really hold on to your equity, because single families don't tend to cash flow too terribly well. They might cash flow okay until you have a vacancy, and then now your cash flow is gone for like a year. Like it takes you a year to catch up on your cash flow. So we will focus on 2 to 4 family when it comes to doing the BRRRR strategy. When I said a BRRRR strategy is our main strategy, BRRRR strategy is not our main strategy. It is my favorite strategy for 2 to 4 units. And part of why I like it so much is because, compared to apartments, apartment value add projects are long, like they're a couple years in length. And, we can do a duplex in a few months and have another $1,500 a month coming in pretty quickly within 2 or 3 months. But asset class, so I'd say single family home, duplex, triplex, and fourplex is what we would focus on the BRRRR with. You're going to find when you're out there, there's not a ton of 3 to 4 unit properties. Those are, especially 4 units, they're not rare, but they're kind of rare compared to how many other properties there are. Duplexes are for the cash flowing units are the ones you're going to find the most of, that there's the most opportunity to get that are listed and available on the market. But if you can find a triplex or fourplex, even better, because the more units there are, the more rents you get to bring in. Karen, do you try to stay away from properties with asbestos and lead abatement? I don't try to stay away from any particular property. For us, it's more, I don't really care what's wrong with it. Really, my question is, what's wrong with it? Can it be cured, and how much is it to cure it? And is there somebody that could do it? Yeah. Okay. I don't really care what's wrong with it then, because as long as it can be abated and it fits within the budget, it doesn't really matter to me what it is. Some people will choose different things that they're like, I want to stay away from that for whatever reason. And frankly, as long as you're dealing with licensed professionals that know how to do it, and it will be done within your allowable budget, I don't see any reason to stay away from it, unless there's something specific that you're in that area, if it's like a health hazard or health risk, then you might choose to stay away from it because there might be ongoing liability issues. But we haven't faced anything like that in our career so far, anyway. And Crystal, it's only during inspections. Is that right? Crystal, can you unmute for a second? When you say it's only during inspections, right? Since it was a while ago, I'm not sure what that was related to. Not sure either. Okay.
Yeah, no, it was in regards to another person's question, and I was asking. Oh. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Well, I don't know. It's only during inspections? Yes. Or no, it's one of those for sure, though. Okay, LC, or maybe it's capital IC, I'm not sure. How do you know a price is fair? That's why you would get multiple quotes. So anytime we're doing a rehab, we are always going to deploy multiple contractors, and we really want to get at least 3 bids, because whether a bid is fair or not is kind of rectified through the process of having 3 different things to compare to. And also, when you're looking at 3 different bids, you have 3 different sets of experienced contractors' eyes on the property, which might point out something that maybe one contractor didn't see. Maybe the second contractor and the third saw something the other one didn't see. And maybe one of them included windows and the other ones didn't. And you're like, well, does it need windows? Ask the contractor, and they might say, well, no, but I wasn't sure if you wanted to do it or not, so I just threw it in there. So having multiple different bids allows you to see what makes sense. And it's not uncommon for you to have, like, someone in our mastermind. I was talking to his coach the other day, his one-on-one coach, and he was like, yeah, he got one bid for $80,000 and he got another bid for $200,000. It's the same property. Like, what? But just so you know, it happens, and it's really bizarre. You're like, how could it be? But because some contractors they're doing custom homes, and they're coming and they're bidding your job based on that, which is why you want to interview them and try to make sure that they're that they have experience in your kind of projects, so that they know, to bid it correctly. But yeah, always having multiple people is going to mitigate a lot of the risks of fair or not. Fair isn't even in our vocabulary when it comes to making a decision about a contractor. It's more, who has the bid that makes the most sense, and then vetting them. Are they going to work? And then moving forward. Ada, do you make your own offers? What resource do you use to get your purchase contracts? We 90 something percent, 98, 92, 92.43% of our offers are made with realtors. So we don't write our offers. What we do is we send an email we have a little grid that we do, and it has certain information, like who's the buyer, so like our entity, the purchase price, the earnest money deposit, the inspection period, the closing period, and any other things that we want to include in the offer. So we don't write our own offers in that way. We just communicate it to the realtor. They write it up on their form. We get it. We review it. We communicate back if there's something wrong. They fix it. We re-review it. Once it's all right, then we sign it and they submit it. So that's the way it normally works. Now, for the other 7 point whatever percent, it's actually almost everything is through realtor. Every once in a great while, we are dealing with like a direct owner. It just doesn't happen that often. But a couple of years ago, we ended up buying a property it was a homeowner. And I didn't realize, I thought it was a wholesaler, but it was a homeowner. He was just a super burned out landlord, and it was a fixer. And there was no realtor involved. So I just went and it was in Indiana, and I just Googled Indiana purchase and sale agreement, downloaded it, filled it out, sent it to him. I signed it, he signed it, and then I called a title company that was near him and sent it to them, and they started title work. So that's how he did it. But most of the time we're just dealing with realtors because it fits our lifestyle better, and we feel like we get more traction and we get more exposure to deals because of all the different people around the country that are looking for deals for us.
The next one is my question.
Okay, next one is a comment. Sherry, how do you negotiate down the initial how do you negotiate down the initial payment? How do you determine the amount to pay up front? Sherry, can you come on camera? Sherry Lee, I see your name there, but are you able to come on camera so I can clarify what you mean by that? Sherry Lee, are you there?
So now how much to put down?
Okay, I'm just wondering how do you negotiate down the initial payment? Okay, I'm gonna make my best guess at what you're asking, Sherry. I'm thinking maybe you're asking about earnest money deposit. So when you are making an offer, part of your offer is to say, I am putting up this much earnest money deposit. Earnest money deposit is the amount of funds that are held by typically the title company, but sometimes, oh, Sherry, there you go. Okay. So Sherry, yeah, what did you mean? Is that what you're asking about, earnest money?
Yes, no. If you already have a property and you've already tried to get some quotes, if a contractor has a initial payout amount that's considered large,
Yeah.
how do you negotiate down that amount?
Oh, okay. Got it. Thank you. Okay. This is how I'd handle that situation. I would just say, look, I understand that probably when you're dealing with homeowners, it's really common for you to ask for upfront, but we are professional investors, and in our business model, which we have for years, you could say we, because your other part of we can be me and Jen, and that I've been following it for years. Our business model is that we will pay you a small down payment if you actually really need money to go get a dumpster and permits, but we don't pay for work up front. That being said, we will come up with a draw schedule and we will pay you like very, very timely. As soon as the work is done, we'll have it verified and we'll wire you the funds, same day or next day. So we will pay you regularly. And if you need to be paid every week, then we can pay you every week. So that's how we do it. And here's the other thing you can always say to them if they bring it up, like, well, I don't want to end up being like I don't want to do a bunch of work, and then what if you don't pay? Here's what I've told my contractors when we're in that initial conversation. I'm like, look, I get it. It's hard because I'm trying to protect myself. They're trying to protect themselves, right? And so I tell them, like, look, the risk to me, if I don't pay you, I know you're not going to keep working. Well, let me have you understand something. The way that I fund my deals is with a hard money lender that we're paying 12% interest. So if I don't pay you, and then as a result, you stop working, that is a very bad move financially for me. It's very expensive. So I am highly incentivized that when you get the work done, to immediately get the inspector in there to make sure everything looks good and get you the funds right away, because I want to make sure you keep going. So it's almost like just an appeal to, look, I understand that you're trying to protect and make sure that you don't end up doing a bunch of work you don't get paid for. And I respect that. What I can do is tell you, I'll pay you right away based on whatever draw schedule. As long as the work is done, I'll pay you right away. And I don't expect you to work if I'm not paying you, but I can't pay you 20% down or 30%, whatever they're asking for. I can't do that, because you could also say the way we fund our deals is we submit a draw request to our hard money lender and they release the funds to us. So I can't go pay you a whole big thing up front. Or you could just say my business partners simply don't allow that. But look, this is our first deal together, and it's going to be our opportunity to work together and kind of work out the bugs. But we're not coming into this market to do one deal. Like, we're investors. We're not homeowners. This isn't the house we're going to live in. This is an investment property. Well, as soon as this one's done, we're getting another one. And as soon as that one's done, we're getting another one and another one. So, what's going to happen if I burn you and take all this extra time to pay you? You're probably not going to want to work on my next 6 jobs. And frankly, it's easier for me if I can work with one person and we can work together over and over and over. That's great for you. It's great for me. So, I understand you don't know me yet and I don't know you yet, but that's the way we operate. So if you want an opportunity to be able to work with us on this project and potentially on, all of our future projects, that's just the way we do it. And, and we'll be very fair. We'll pay you quickly, but I can't pay you for work that hasn't been done. Like it's not our business model. My business partner won't approve it.
I'm gonna take the next two.
Okay, go for it.
Thank you. Mhm.
All right, so we have from Megan, at which point is a property too much work for you guys, or are you open to any condition? That question it's very dependent on where the area is, what time of the year it is. If it looks like it's a huge job and there's a lot to do and it's like October, I'm not really looking forward to facing a winter, because we basically invest in the Midwest where you face polar vortexes and things like that. So the seasonality of the business it kind of dictates how big of a job we'll take on. And then I think that I'm pretty much open to any condition, honestly, if the numbers are right. So I don't look at it in terms of, oh God, that's scary, that's so much work. I look at it in terms of, is the return on investment there for me? Is the juice worth the squeeze? And then if so, I'm going to make the plan work. So I hope that answers your question, Megan. We're not really afraid of much. To me, when I see shitty properties, I see dollar signs. I see opportunity for price reductions, negotiations, and the millionaire maker strategy. The next one from Keith. So you recommend finding your contractors before you have a deal. I'll take this one too. So yes and no. I don't know where you are, Keith, but I'll tell you this. There's been times where our strategy is like this. We go into, oh, there's Keith. Okay, cool. We go into a market, right? And when we're going into a market, we intend to go into that market really deep and really acquire a lot of properties. We've done that over 14 states in the country. And we get in, we get all of our properties under contract, and we'll do a lot of rinse and repeat business with the same realtors and the same contractors. And when we're in there, I'm like, okay, before I even decide if I'm going to go in the market, I will take a look at what's going on in the city. Like, are all the permits backed up? Like, what the hell's going on? Is it going to be crazy to even be in here? So looking at all those different pieces of market research. Then when getting in there, I also want to look at what is the bench strength of the contractors in that market. And am I going to have options, or am I going to be sitting here? There's only 3 guys in the whole hood that know what they're doing. So I do like to educate myself on that before even entering the market. So that's one part. That's part A of the question. Part 2 is I've also seen a market and been like, holy shit, I need to get the hell in here and let's go, and made offers and then said, holy shit, I got to get contractors out there. And then went on to Thumbtack, found 3 people to go out there, and just started that process after I was already under contract. So I have done it both ways. We have done it both ways. I definitely prefer the first, but I'm not going to let that stop me. So you just got to do what feels right for you. When you're entering that market and understanding the strategy behind it, like, do I want to get in and get out really fast? Do I intend to get in here and really just like grow roots and stay here for 3 to 5 years before I pull out and go to the next great market? Whatever that looks like for you is probably, going to be different than for me. I can put my foot on the gas and go. I can also like sit back and look at the strategy of all of it. So those are just my tips on it, to try and figure out the best way when you're entering, how to go through and find out what is the bandwidth, the actual bandwidth of contractors in that market is always the best first question. But you don't have to have them lined up in order to make an offer or make a deal, right? I'm sorry, go ahead. Just trying to give you a break.
You don't have to say sorry. I love when you talk.
Well, I thought you loved
She
it.
says such smart things. All right.
How quickly?
Thank you. I was like, Sherry, how quickly does your inspector get out to do the draw inspections? I mean, it really depends. So like when we're going into a project and we know we're going to need 4 or 6 draw inspections, one of the things that we really like to do is we like to have our original home inspector who did the original inspection be the one who also does the draw inspections. They won't always be interested in that, but we will usually try to have the conversation before even hiring them for the initial inspection to say, look, this is going to be a rehab, so you're walking in there, so we want to know everything that's wrong, but we will also be looking for someone to come and do draw inspections, every week or to 2 weeks, depending on the project. Is that something you'd be interested in doing? So ideally, we're dealing with the same person. Anyway, so if that's the case, at the very beginning of the project, I'm going to say, this is what we're talking about as far as timing with the contractor. We're going to have an inspection every Friday or every other Friday. It's really up to I'm just telling the contractor, look, you tell me when stuff's going to be done. Make sure you tell me in advance because I need to schedule my inspector in advance. So we try to give the inspector a heads up in advance of like what the schedule is going to be. But when I know for sure, I'm usually calling, 2 or 3 days ahead and just confirming. But because it's not a full inspection, right? A full inspection is going to be hours of time. What we're asking them to do takes maybe 20 minutes. They're just going to look at a couple of things and make sure that those things are done. A good inspector will also give you a heads up on other things that they have found to be wrong. Like we have an inspector in Indianapolis named Jad. And the one thing that I loved about him is I was like, here's the 3 things I needed to go check on. And he went there, he's like, I mean, these 3 things are done, but just as a heads up, the way that your contractor is doing blah, 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 you're going to end up having a much bigger issues down the line. And it's just because of the way that he's doing it. And so I said, he's like, I don't want to step on anyone's feet. So I didn't know if I should say anything. And I was like, yeah, he was still at the property when he called like away from the contractor. And I was like, 100%, please go have a conversation because I don't want to try to third party whatever you just said. And so that's another role of, or another benefit of having someone there who's got a lot of experience is if they see that something, it's nothing to do with the draw, but they see something that's not right, I'll tell them like, look, give me a heads up if you see something that doesn't look right so that we can try to nip it in the bud. So, but as far, anyway, I know the question was like, what's the timing? If you plan in advance, then you should have no issue with timing and it doesn't take a lot of time out of their day. Something they could squeeze in between inspections or at the end of their day. Crystal, are you adding contingencies to their contracts? Crystal, are you talking about the contractor contracts or making offer contracts?
Offer.
Okay, so in making offer contracts, there's a couple of different ways that you can do it. So you can put all sorts of contingencies in there so you have lots of different ways to back out. The challenge with that is anytime you're in any kind of competitive market, yeah, I mean, you're going to kill your deal, right? So what Jen and I do and what we teach our students is, look, all you really need is one contingency, but you have to be savvy enough to, if there's another reason you need to back out of the deal that's not related to that contingency, you have to be savvy enough to communicate that it's because of the one contingency you have. So for example, the only one we ask for is the home inspection. Unless it's a performing cash flow property that we're going to get regular bank financing, then we'll put an a financing contingency in there. But most of what we buy are fixers because that's just what we like, creating the equity. So with that, we only ask for the inspection period. Now, if the real reason we're not going forward is because we just got another one accepted and now we're just like, well, we're not going to be able to do both, or it's related to finance or relating to some other reason that we don't have a contingency for, I'm not going to be like, oh yeah, our hard money lender won't blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying that. I'm just going to be like, yeah, based on our inspection, we're not moving forward with the deal. But that allows you to be a lot more competitive because when you're making an offer and you're like, I really have no contingencies. I mean, I just need an inspection, of course, but
Right.
Yeah,
Okay,
awesome. It's just a strategy to get your foot in the door, but you have to follow up to make sure your communication never says anything different
Okay.
than what you have the out built in for.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks.
Good question. Okay. What are the typical must-have terms you put into your contracts? Yeah, Keith, that's the only one, with the exception of the financing contingency for if it's a performing property or one that I'm going to get conventional financing for. Otherwise, if it's a fixer and we're just using hard money or using cash, I'm only asking for the inspection. Crystal, would you recommend looking into multiple markets immediately to delve into putting offers, or would you find one initially to focus on putting offers? It's kind of like a phased approach. So you might do your market research and find that, oh, there's 5 different markets that I could do, and I'm going to pick one. Like you only have so much time in the day. So what I would recommend is that you pick one of the ones that you had identified and start working on getting leads coming in. And then once you kind of got that going, you got leads coming in, then you can, or you're doing it, you're just not really making a lot of traction. Then you open up market number 2, and then you still have whatever you had coming on for market number 1. Now you have market number 1 and the market number 2. So you kind of do it as a phased approach, but start with one so that you can get some kind of system and traction in place. and then you can open the next one. And I mean, eventually, if you can operate with, 2 to 3 markets and having stuff come in, that's usually plenty, and you should be able to get, a deal pretty quickly once you get to that point.
Pardon.
What? Oh, okay. If
You don't make a free vacation out of points after each
Oh.
trip.
Yeah, that's true.
Totally.
We've paid for a lot of things through points. That's true.
Crystal, when sending an offer to a realtor. Do you see it?
Thank you. Yeah, although I have another question that was just sent to me for some reason. Okay, Carol, you'd asked the question, what's the name of our Facebook group? It's called Multifamily Real Estate Investing. And do you want to, Jen, do you mind putting the link to our Facebook group? Sometimes I think, well, everybody in here is in our Facebook group, but I forget that you might have come in through the email blast that went out, but we would love to have you in the group as well. Okay, when sending an offer to a realtor on their property, you may or may not have interest in, and you have no P&L or financials, how do you quickly make an offer and it be appropriate prices? Okay, so I'm assuming, Crystal, that you're talking about, if you're talking about P&L, you're talking about a performing property. So I'll answer from that standpoint. Usually, if there's a property that's listed and it has tenants in there and they're listing it as like that's a benefit, usually even in the listing, it will say, this is how much rents are coming in. And if not, then I would just tell my realtor, like, find out, because you don't have enough basis to know what offer to make, because if you don't know what the cash flow is, then you have just a big blind spot. So I would just basically say, can you find out? Or no, that's what I would do. I wouldn't make an offer without having any idea what the rents are. Or you could go in and make an assumption, like you could do a little bit of research and see what market rents are, maybe cut that down by 10%, plug that in, make your offer subject to inspection. And if it gets accepted and you're doing your due diligence and you find out, oh wait, it's not as high as I thought, you could back out for purpose of inspection. But I would personally rather just know what the rents are so I can proceed accordingly. Sherry, are you doing DocuSign or EchoSign or something when you have to do signatures? So Sherry, most realtors have their own, not their own program, like it's proprietary to them, but AuthentiSign, DocuSign, there's like a ton of different programs out there, but usually the realtor is subscribed to whichever one they use and they're comfortable with. And so they will put the contract into that program and they'll send it to you. So you don't need to have any of those programs, because on the user side, the signature side, you just click a link and you put your signature in there. So although we do have electronic signature programs, we don't need it for our real estate. We do it for our consulting side of our business, because when we have clients, we send a document out to be signed. But for our real estate, we never have to initiate it. It's always the realtors initiating it. Okay, I really appreciate that statement. We can't take any more questions. We got to feed dinner. Yeah. Okay, so just so everybody knows, every week at this time, although we're not usually on for this long. Wow, you guys are troopers. Holy cow. See, time becomes just gone for me when I start teaching. I had no idea we were on for 2.5 hours. But anyway, every Wednesday at 4:00 Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, and all the time zones in between, depending on where you live, we do an Ask Us Anything, and it's live on the Facebook group. We're probably going to start doing once a month, something like this, where it's a live, actual content class with open Q&A after we can ask all your questions. So, but anyway, just know every Wednesday at 4:00, you hop on the Facebook group, and Jen and I will be standing there and fielding questions. We'll talk about in our mastermind, who's working on what's the status of their projects and stuff like that, because a lot of times people like to follow those journeys. But then we just do open Q&A so that you guys always have a place to have your questions answered throughout your journey. So anyway, I appreciate all of you for taking the time to be here, and I honor your journey. I hope I get to see you guys next week in the 5-day challenge. We're gonna have an awesome time. In the meantime, you guys have a wonderful, wonderful week. I love all of you. I honor your journeys, and we'll see you soon. Bye.